Post-Apocalyptic Black Technology Battleship System. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 276, The Battleship Sets Sail. Chapter 279, The Battleship Sets Sail. Xia Bai's battleship is by no means a novelty on any young mountain point for quite some time in the past. Xia Bai's battleship passing through the sky every day was almost an unchanging landscape on any young mountain point. Therefore, what Xia Bai's battleship looks like and what state it is in are undoubtedly the clearest things for the survivors on any young mountain point. Everyone basically knows where Xia Bai's battleship is parked point. Although the air raid shelter area where Xia Bai placed the warship is a semi-restricted area on any young mountain, any unauthorized survivors are not allowed to enter this area and will be immediately stopped by the alarm measures deployed by Xia Bai in this area. It was discovered that, since any young mountain is such a big place, it was impossible to hide where Xia Bai's battleship settled point. Therefore, although no one has entered the air raid shelter at the back of any young mountain, everyone knows that Xia Bai's battleship is docked in the air raid shelter. And now, what is this flying out of the air raid shelter? Xia Bai's battleship was more than 100 meters tall and hung in the sky above any young mountain, casting a large shadow point from the style of the battleship. It can still be seen that this is the same style as the previous small battleship point in the corner of any young mountain below. Kyo Deming squinted at Xia Bai's battleship in the distant sky and couldn't help but whisper, "My dear, has Xia Bai always been hiding a real big guy?" Looking at Xia Bai's battleship at this moment, people were naturally shocked, but almost no one would connect Xia Bai's battleship with the previous gadget that was more than 20 meters long. Point after all, who would have thought of the concept of upgrading? Even if someone told them that it was Xia Bai's previous spaceship that was transformed, no one would believe it. How long has it been? The last time the Xia Bai 4th level battleship appeared was half a month ago, and now, a thing that was more than 20 meters long had turned into such a behemoth. No one would believe it. Point on any young mountain, many people are looking up at the giant thing in the sky, each with their own thoughts and shocks at this moment. Xia Bai was communicating with the Anyang Mountain command tower below through the platform inside the battleship point. Nowadays, the scale of the battleship has increased, and the building structure inside Anyang Mountain has been expanded many times. Xia Bai's battleship fell from the sky at level 4 before, but now, he wants to land inside Anyang Mountain. It's not that simple either. He doesn't want to land on Anyang Mountain now. Point the request for help from Xinli County was delivered nearly half an hour ago. Anyang Mountain's current response speed to emergencies is even comparable to conventional military forces. Therefore, when Xia Bai's battleship crossed, when Qin came over, manpower had already been organized here. Point in fact, before Xia Bai's battleship arrived, Huang Qiulan was still a little hesitant, because Xia Bai said in the previous instruction that he would bring more than 30 people with him for this operation. Point at the moment, Anyang helicopter formation is still performing missions outside. With the carrying capacity of warships that Huang Qiulan is familiar with, it is unrealistic to take so many people in one go. Point it wasn't until Huang Qiulan saw the 5th level battleship at this moment that the doubts that had been in his heart completely disappeared at this moment. Point she also walked out of the building, his hair whipped by the strong wind flying fiercely. She raised her hand to cover her forehead, looking at the battleship in the sky. She was also distracted for a while. Point there were many people gathered below, mostly combat personnel and related people. After learning that they were about to take such a spaceship to Xinli County, they all looked very expectant and excited. Point Xia Bai will not descend from the sky to take away these people. The battleship has reached level 5, and the external tractor beam tower has also been increased to 3. The power of 2 of the beam towers is still the same as that of the 5th level. The tractor beam towers of the previous 4th level battleships were the same, and were very low end. Only the middle one was improved. However, these beam towers were more than enough to pull a large living person. Point in the dim light, Xia Bai asked Alpha to control the tractor beam towers on the 3 battleships, and directly pulled up all the people below in batches. These people were very excited to board the battleship, but Xia Bai had also arranged various management personnel early. Hao Zuang, Bailan, and Chen Shai and Cheng all asked him to pull them up. Although it was still the first time for them to see the state of Xia Bai's 5th level battleship, and it was the first time to board such a battleship, Xia Bai had greeted them early, and now he knew that he should do something. Hao Zuang took his own people to manage those people on the tractor beam tower and let them go to the centralized rest area according to the guidance provided by Alpha under Xia Bai's instructions. Xia Bai and others were also among this group of people. When there was a survivor base in Fuxin last time, Xia Bai was really worried that Xia Bai can't think about it again and massacred every survivor base in minutes. Therefore, now, but Xia Bai must appear in any such action point during this period of time. Any action zone pilots have been trained, replacing Xia Bai and others' role in the helicopter formation. This is what Huang Qiulan and Xia Bai meant. Although Xia Bai and her Liming team have been helping Anyang Mountain, but after all they are members of the military and soldiers at heart. This is a good thing, but it also means that they can never truly stand in the team of Anyang Mountain. Therefore, whether it is a helicopter or a tank, Xia Bai and the others cannot always be used to help Anyang Mountain to play a role in Anyang Mountain. Therefore, it is normal for Xia Bai and the others to abdicate. On the other side, Bailan and Chen Shai and Sheng followed the guidance of the intelligent AI inside the battleship and arrived at the central bridge point. As soon as he came in, Chen Shai and Sheng shouted exaggeratedly and said, "I'll go." Now it looks like a battleship. Bai Lang didn't have much interest in this kind of steel creation. She came to the bridge, glanced at Xia Bai who was sitting in the captain's seat over there, and couldn't help but said, "You have been missing all day long these days. The cat is in the air raid shelter, and this is what he is messing with, right?" Chapter 277 Fire. Chapter 280. Fires in Li County is not large in size. It is a small county town with a population of more than 100,000. The survivor base is established with the area where the municipal government is located as a core point. It didn't take long for Xia Bai's battleship to get here. During this period of time, the internal situation of the battleship has been temporarily distributed. Xia Bai threw all the landing personnel into the 4th internal structure of the battleship, which was the warehouse at the rear of the battleship. In the bridge, Xia Bai still sat on the captain's seat in the middle like a little emperor. Below, many conventional systems were left to Bailan to handle, while Chen Shai and Sheng once again sat on the captain's seat. He took the driver's position and began to control this behemoth with the help of the battleship's auxiliary system. To be honest, Chen Shai and Sheng seemed very excited. He had indeed not sat in this position for a long time, but now, he was somewhat nervous. After all, although Chen Shai and Cheng had piloted a battleship in the 3rd level and 4th level forms, the 5th level battleship was not large enough in size. It was different from the previous two. At this moment, driving such a behemoth felt completely different from the previous small spacecraft. In response, Xia Bai just gave him a sentence and said very proudly, "Our warships are not afraid of collisions, so we can drive them as we please." Chen Shai and Sheng immediately contacted Hao Zuang who was behind the battleship, and the content of the call between these two people. "Hao Zuang, what do you think I will do? I'm the one driving the spaceship you're sitting on now. TSK, I'm on the bridge. This bridge is just, if you show off again, believe it or not, I will beat you to death." "What the hell? Believe it or not, I will kick you off the battleship." These two people had always been like this, and Xia Bai just smiled at this, seeing Chen Shai and Sheng's excited expression as he boarded the battleship. Xia Bai always felt an inexplicable guilt. He handed over all the work himself. He didn't have to dare to do anything while sitting here. The people he brought to work were as happy as anything. Xia Bai still left most of the battleship's fire control system to Alpha, and the rest was controlled by Xia Bai himself. He originally wanted Bailan to do this, but unfortunately, Bailan I have no interest in this kind of thing. The flying speed of the 5th level battleship increased to another level. Xia Bai also wanted to test the flying speed of the 5th level battleship. After setting off from Shengjing City, within a few minutes, He arrived over the survivor base in Zinli County. This place is indeed besieged by zombies. The overall feeling is no different from other small survivor bases of ordinary survivors. Although this is the former seat of the city government, as time goes by, although the large open space here still exists, and tall walls have been erected around both sides, but the overall feeling is still a dim and bleak apocalyptic feeling. Outside the wall, dense losses are surging. The scale of this survivor base is not large, and the number of zombies is actually not many. The number of zombies that can sustain them to death is tens of thousands, but compared to the size of this survivor base, this kind of corpse tide can indeed pose a threat to this place. After all, although the walls here are tall, they were obviously built with insufficient manpower and materials. Compared with the walls of any young mountain, they appear extremely rough and crude and even crumbling. Even the walls of the Fuchs in survivor base are worse than those of Zinli. I don't know how strong the walls of the county survivor base are. As Xia Bai's battleship roared in from the distant sky with a thunder-like buzz, in the middle of the city government building below, a man in his 60s slowly walked out. His hair they were all grey, standing on the steps, squinting and looking up at the battleship above their heads. The huge battleship is blocking half of the sky and sunlight. The old man squinted his eyes, and the wrinkles on his face gathered together, making him look extremely old. Behind the old man stood a young man who looked like he was tired of work. In front of the government, many survivors who were active outside were also slowly retreating, looking up at the giant thing in the sky. Xia Bai controlled the battleship to slowly descend from the sky and at the same time use the battleship to broadcast to the entire audience. This is the Anyang Mountain reinforcement. We are now providing military assistance to the Zinli County survivor base. Please cooperate with us. Please cooperate with us. There is a large open space in front of the city hall. There are not many survivors in Zinli County, and there does not seem to be much supplies. There is almost nothing in this open space. Although it is still a bit crowded, Xia Bai's battleship seems to be able to land off point. While the battleship was falling, Balan in front said, something is not quite right. Behind the front building of the city hall, 2 pieces of military armed equipment were scanned out. According to the analysis results, they should be conventional 40-barreled wheeled rocket launchers, and Balan paused slightly here and turned the situation over to Alpha to explain the survivors who have appeared outside the survivor base, their behavioral patterns, reactions and abnormal performances. Xia Bai was also calling up the picture below and looking at the survivor base on the ground beneath his feet. 40 tube-wheeled rocket launcher. Even if there are 10,000 zombies outside, 2-wheeled rocket launchers with 40 barrels can blast a passage, right? There are not many survivors here. Through the short-lived corpse wave gap created by the rocket launcher, the possibility of escaping from the Zinli County survivor bases, almost 70%. So is this a trap? Xia Bai took a slight breath. At this time, Hao Zhuang said over there, brother Xia, let's. Xia Bai said, take off. Prepare to leave here. Alpha, aim our fort at the position of the 2-wheeled rocket launchers, and be ready to raise the battleship shield at any time. The positions of the 2-wheeled rocket launchers have been marked on the screen, stuck in the visual blind spot of the battleship. Xia Bai didn't really want to leave. If this was really a trap heading towards him, then the other party would never let him leave. At this moment, below, in front of the city government building, the young man standing behind the old man couldn't help but said, this is inconsistent with the information in the intelligence. The battleship in Anyang Mountain is not this thing. The old man stared at the giant thing in the sky and said solemnly, fire. The young man was taken aback and said, what? Sir, I suggest you not to open fire. Ashley outside. That thing, if it also has the shield of the previous Anyang battleship, I'm afraid it won't be able to deal with it with our previous preparations. What we want to kill is the 20-meter spaceship in Anyang Mountain, not this thing now, but. The old man still stared at the rising battleship in the sky and repeated with the same tone, fire. Chapter 278, Killing an Egg Against a Stone. Chapter 281, Hitting an Egg Against a Stone. The 2-wheeled rocket launchers stuck in the blind spot behind the city government building opened fire in an instant. The first thing they exploded was the corner of the building in front of them. Smoke and dust rose instantly, and the rockets dragged a cold light across the sky and tore the air. Rushing towards Xia Bai's battleship point, the 40-tube-wheeled rocket launcher was no joke. The entire ground seemed to shake. Amid the heavy smell of gunpowder smoke, rockets trailing flames shot up into the sky. This kind of thing fires at a speed of up to 2 seconds per round. It only takes 20 seconds to fire a round of rockets. However, Xia Bai's battleship responded immediately. At such a distance, there is no possibility for the huge warship to evade, and of course, there is no need to evade. The battleship's shield instantly rose, and the 6 missiles in the macro missile array on the flanks were directly used as interceptors by Alpha and instantly launched. Although the battleship also had a jamming missile system among Alpha's priorities, these 6 macro missiles, the interception accuracy is higher of course. Despite this, there were still rockets hitting Xia Bai's battleship, but these hits were all intercepted by the battleship's outer shield, and the explosion was spread out like a ball of fireworks on the battleship's shield. Open explosions occurred one after another in the sky, and smoke and dust billowed up. The battleship was hit by 5 or 6 rockets, and the entire hull of the battleship was wrapped in flames at the same moment. The automatic cannons on both sides of the battleship turned their missiles in an instant, and launched attacks against the 2-wheeled rocket launchers below with densely projectile rocket launchers. The automatic cannon strike capability under Alka's control was undoubtedly very accurate. Yes, a series of bombardments directly exploded the 2-wheeled rocket launchers. The loud noise even affected the building on one side, causing large cracks to break apart. The 2-wheeled rocket launchers were destroyed without even clearing all the rocket launchers, but after the smoke and dust cleared, Xia Bai's battleship was still suspended in mid-air, hanging high in the sky like a god. Xia Bai's eyes fell on the holographic screen displayed in front of him. What was displayed on it was still the scene under his feet. The city government building was severely affected, and the entire building looked shaky, as if it might collapse at any time. And in front of the government building, the old man was still standing there. The steps under his feet were cracked, as if they might collapse at any time, but he remained motionless, staring intently at the behemoth in the sky, as if his eyes could penetrate Xia Bai's battleship and see the same thing in the battleship. Xia Bai was staring at him. Xia Bai had seen such a look before. This kind of look comes from intelligent zombies in the previous Genpei city. When his battleship flew through the sky, the intelligent zombies and the people who had no power to fight back against the battleship just looked at themselves and the battleship. Xia Bai can probably imagine why there is such a trap. If the intelligent zombies want to take down Anyang Mountain, the first thing they need to kill is Xia Bai and Xia Bai's battleship. Xia Bai glanced at the energy loss of the shield displayed on a display screen on the other side of him, and realized that this trap here was probably for himself. Prepared for the 4th level battleship. If Xia Bai's battleship is still at level 4, the salvo just now will probably knock off the shield of Xia Bai's battleship before Xia Bai can destroy the 2-wheeled rocket launcher tanks, or even damage the battleship main structure. This group of people took advantage of Xia Bai's psychology of rescuing survivors and set a trap for him to lure him out of the iron-walled Anyang Mountain. They would shoot down Xia Bai's warship from the sky like a hunting beast, leaving Xia Bai fold here, and Xia Bai dies. No matter how strong the defensive structure of Anyang Mountain is, it will no longer be an opponent of intelligent zombies and dense zombie tides. The reason why Anyang Mountain is so difficult to capture is, firstly, due to the exhaustive investigation of zombies and infection sources within Anyang Mountain. And secondly, because of the complementarity of Anyang Mountain's own survivor defense system and Xia Bai's battleships. Anyang Mountain's walls, and not only can the escort be able to withstand the attack of the zombie tide, Xia Bai's warships can even take the initiative to attack. Without a large scale and a sufficient number of zombie tides, it is really difficult to capture a place like Anyang Mountain. The Changbei Mountain survivor base is still there, and it is impossible for intelligent zombies to bring out millions of zombies to deal with a mere Anyang Mountain. Then, it makes perfect sense to defeat the emergence of such plans one by one. Xia Bai also had to admit that this trap was indeed a threat to level 4 battleships. As long as the 2-wheeled rocket launchers could successfully shoot out the first batch of rocket launchers and 80 shells, even if it was Xia Bai's level 5 battleship, the shield also needs to be shaken. The shield of the 4th level battleship can only be penetrated in the air. As long as the shield is penetrated, Xia Bai believes that these intelligent zombies must have other means to contain his battleship, and at that time, the second round of firing of the 2-wheeled rocket launchers will come. Even if all 80 shells are fired, facing a warship without a shield, even a god will be shot down at such a distance. But what these intelligent zombies probably never expected was that Xia Bai's battleship had already reached level 5 at this point in time. The battleship's detection equipment, shield equipment, even weapons facilities and even Alpha, which controls the fire control system, have been improved. The 2-wheeled rocket launchers of the intelligent zombies cannot be hidden under the scanning equipment of the 5th level battleship. Even if hidden, with its firepower, it is impossible to hit all Xia Bai's battleships, because the 5th level battleships have a large number of interference bombs that can be intercepted progressively, and the existence of the shield is an insurmountable super defense. Power, coupled with the existence of Alpha, an intelligence system that has been upgraded, but shows no improvement in intelligence, to control the fire control system. It can turn the intelligent zombies to death and rub them on the ground in an instant. Of course, it is impossible for intelligent zombies to upgrade Xia Bai's battleship. How many days has it been since the upgrade of the battleship was completed? Not even the people on Anyang Mountain knew that Zaylan, who was close to Xia Bai, only saw the 5th level battleship today. How could an intelligent zombie know that? They couldn't have expected that the spacecraft that was more than 20 meters long 2 days ago would become such a big thing in such a short time. This situation is like trying to catch a rabbit, but encountering a lion. Chapter 279 Little Overlord. Chapter 280 To the Little Overlord. Thick smoke rose from the Xinli County survivor base, and there was a heavy smell of gunpowder smoke everywhere. Xia Bai's battleship cast a huge shadow in the sky. On the ground, the survivors were looking up at the battleships in the sky. Regardless of whether they were intelligent zombies or not, they did not take any further action, because at this moment, any action seemed unnecessary. And Xia Bai actually felt a little bit pained at the moment. It's not that he felt sorry for the bullets his battleship had just fired, but he felt sorry for the 2-wheeled rocket launchers below. When they fired, it was like setting off fireworks with dozens of rounds in a barrel. But what do fireworks shoot, and what do wheeled rocket launchers shoot? Xia Bai felt a little pity that it exploded like this, but there was nothing he could do about it. He couldn't just let the battleship risk several rounds of salvo fire and send the combatants below to seize the 2-wheeled rocket launchers. Right, there were countless intelligent zombies down there. Xia Bai's battleship never lacked weapons, and he was not jealous of these 2-wheeled rocket launchers to the point of losing his mind. But where did these smart zombies get this kind of thing? Xia Bai's battleship was slowly lowering its altitude from mid-air. The automatic cannons on the battleship all automatically turned their muzzles under the control of Alpha, monitoring the survivors' camp in Xinli County below. People, once they have any unexpected behavior or behavior that can be judged to be dangerous, Alpha will fire to eliminate them as soon as possible to reduce their threat to the battleship to the lowest level. At this moment, down below, the old man with white hair at the temples was still standing there, motionless, looking at the battleship in the sky. The young man behind him, on the other hand, seemed a little hurried and panicked. He whispered, "We are covering your retreat. It's still too late." The old man shook his head and said, "Shield, spaceship, battleship. I want to meet the owner of these things." The young man changed his color when he heard this and said, "Are you crazy? There is no way that man from Anyang Mountain can come down. Why would he take such a risk? His greatest possibility is to kill us all with carpet bombing. No, he will send someone down." The gray-haired old man guessed correctly. Knowing that there were intelligent zombies everywhere, Xia Bai certainly couldn't put himself in danger. As the captain of a battleship, why would he get off the battleship unless necessary? When he was in Fuxin before, it was because it was also a survivor base, and the people around him were all living people. But now, in Xinli County, there are countless intelligent zombies here. From the last time he was in Fuxin, Xia Bai, it can be seen that he is still very high on the smart zombies must kill list. As soon as he appeared, the zombie hidden among the survivors in Fuchsin stopped killing Chin Han, and instead killed himself. Xia Bai thought to himself, if he went down now, wouldn't the intelligent zombies below start boiling? Of course, with the battleship on board and Xia Bai having a shield and a gravity grenade in his hand, he really didn't think these intelligent zombies could do anything to him. However, knowing that the target was him. Why did Xia Bai go down there? At this time, you have to keep a distance. Even though you are in the battleship, others can't see or touch you. This gives rise to that huge feeling of frustration that you are obviously going to succeed, but there is nothing you can do about it. But it is still necessary to send people down. If the information and analysis presented by Alpha are correct, this should be an intelligent zombie camp, a large-scale zombie residence. Although Xia Bai knew about the existence of such a place for a long time, this was his first time coming to such a place. He felt it was necessary to capture a few lives. Xia Bai was reluctant to let his own people advance with rocket launchers. But it was very necessary to catch intelligent zombies. Otherwise, what would Xia Bai do with the captain and combat personnel? He lowered the height and directly released all the captain and combat personnel behind the battleship. Before Xia Bai put down this group of people, he also gave a burst of encouragement through the communication channel in the ship. Everyone, perform well today, and you will be the permanent combatants on the battleship tomorrow. Everyone was very excited today, as the first batch of people to board Xia Bai's battleship. They witnessed with their own eyes the spectacular scene of Xia Bai's battleship's shield resisting the rocket salvo. At this moment, they all felt a sense of themselves. They are all under the illusion of being on a spaceship, and they are all very excited and motivated right now. In fact, although Xia Bai's 5th level battleship is equipped with the ability to fly in the sky, apart from the key facilities, it is much stronger than the things on the Earth. But the 5th level battleship is more than 100 meters long. The real battleship shape is stretched, and the internal structure is almost the same as the battleships that everyone has seen in various movies and games, and it is even more three-dimensional. Coupled with such an incredible shield technology, it will inevitably give rise to some illusions. These survivors, after experiencing the baptism of the apocalypse for such a long time, are each more powerful than the last. Anyang Mountain is a very good survivor base, and in their view, Xia Bai's battleship is completely a further existence. Being able to stay in Anyang Mountain means being able to find a peaceful place in the apocalypse, and if you can board Xia Bai's battleship and become a member of such a behemoth, that is equivalent to a step forward. Therefore, at this moment, Xia Bai put down all the combatants behind him. They were all extremely excited and active. Under the leadership of Hao Zuang, Captain Lu and others, they began to act as if the military was executing some military operation took over the entire Xinli County camp. The following situations are summarized on Xia Bai's battleship through the reports of several key figures such as Hao Zuang. Of course, these are not handled by Xia Bai. They are summarized by Alpha and then manually screened by Bailan. And only then will the information that is further summarized come into Xia Bai's hands. Of course, there are not many people down there, and there is very little information, so there is nothing to summarize or delay. But Xia Bai, who was sitting in the driver's seat at the back, felt inexplicably like a wealthy landlord. Come here by yourself, everything is in your hands, and you don't have to do anything. Only then did Xia Bai realize that this might be the bourgeois colonizer, right? Chapter 280. Are you threatening me? Chapter 283. Are you threatening me? Hao Zuang and others are controlling the situation at the Xinli County camp below. Amid the shadows and roars of the battleships, they advanced steadily. One thing that was confirmed in the first moment was that most of the human beings operating outside were intelligent zombies. Moreover, they didn't do much to hide at all. Some intelligent zombies were disabled themselves and just used something to cover their wounds. The single function of intelligent zombies is comparable to that of awakened humans. Therefore, Xia Bai directly led his group to gather the intelligent zombies outside without conducting any body searches, because once these intelligent zombies, if the zombies made any move, Xia Bai and the others would cooperate with the waiting warships in the sky to open fire and kill them directly. Even if Xia Bai and the others might fall into a passive position due to the sudden attack of the intelligent zombies, The battleship is still there, and the automatic cannon controlled by Alpha cannot be soft for a moment. As long as the intelligent zombies dare to fire and take action, Alpha in the sky will opening fire at the first opportunity. With the firepower of the battleship facing these individuals gathered in a pile, it was as fast as cutting wheat. No matter Xia Bai and the others could respond in time, they would not cause too much impact or loss. With the battleship here, intelligent zombies will never be able to cause any trouble unless they have the same firepower and equipment as human armored forces, and intelligent zombies obviously know this. The apocalypse has been erupting for a long time, and the appearance of intelligent zombies has not been short-lived. Most of those currently active outside are very aware of the gap between themselves and human beings, and they also know that in this situation, resistance is meaningless, especially today. These intelligent zombies set a trap for Xia Bai's battleship, so they should have thought of this scene at this moment. Therefore, at this moment, the intelligent zombies here appear to be surprisingly cooperative. They do not have any resistance and only look at the scene in the field coldly. They are very clear about their own destiny. Based on the current situation, Xia Bai, there is no way that the battleship will let them go. This is a dead end, because if they and Xia Bai's positions are exchanged, or if these intelligent zombies succeed in knocking down Xia Bai's battleship from mid-air today, he would definitely kill any possible living person on the battleship without hesitation, especially Xia Bai. Just like what the female intelligent zombie and Xia Bai said a long time ago. This is not a war between humans and intelligent zombies. This is a war of survival. In the war of survival, there is no morality, no right and wrong, only survival. If you kill your opponent, you can survive. In this world, most principles related to survival are simple and cruel. How Zhuang also sent a group of people into the city hall behind and transmitted the footage back to the battleship. This is a trap set by intelligent zombies. Once it fails, all the intelligent zombies here will be destroyed. Therefore, there are not many people deployed by intelligent zombies, except for the more than 20 individuals outside. The city government building behind it was completely empty, with only some bones and pieces of flesh and blood left over from the intelligent zombies. The old man and the young man on the stairs outside the city hall were also controlled. These two people are also intelligent zombies. In such a camp established by intelligent zombies, there cannot be any living people. Even if there are, they have long been turned into pieces of flesh and blood in the city government building. The young intelligent zombie seemed very excited and even had the intention of resisting, but his resistance was meaningless. How Zhuang led 7 or 8 people with guns and pressed them up. Even if this young man had a power comparable to that of an awakened person, he could not. When he couldn't come out, he took out a gun from his waist and was shot by Hao Zhuang in the middle of the eyebrow and through the head. The guy's body fell down directly and slid down the broken stairs, but he didn't bleed much. The white-haired old intelligent zombie seemed indifferent. In fact, zombies have no concept of youth and aging at all. What keeps them alive is viruses, and what drives them to continuously eat organic matter is also viruses. Viruses replace and reconstruct their body structure, unless the viruses in their bodies are completely dead. No matter they look old or young, they are actually the same to intelligent zombies. Hao Zhuang led his men to press him up, and the intelligent zombie said calmly, "I want to see Xia Bai." Xia Bai was in the battleship overlooking the scene below him. After a moment of silence, he slowly waved his hand and operated on an electronic screen on one side. Immediately afterwards, the front glass of the entire battleship began to become transparent, and the image of Xia Bai sitting in the captain's seat was projected. In the bridge of the battleship, Chen Shai and Xing below took a look and said, "Damn it, is this kind of operation possible?" The old man's intelligent zombie raised his head and looked at Xia Bai above his head. Xia Bai smiled first and said, "It's an honor for you to know my name." There was no expression on the face of the intelligent zombie. He was as dull as a stone. Only when he spoke, the muscles around his mouth trembled slightly. "Any action, Xia Bai? I can only see you." "It's my honor." Xia Bai thought to himself, "This is really a piece of useless business nonsense." He looked at this intelligent zombie and said, "You want to see me?" The intelligent zombie nodded slightly and said, "I come from the inner circle." Xia Bai frowned slightly when he heard this because he has never heard of such a word. The intelligent zombie obviously saw this, and he said, "You may not have heard of the inner circle, Because we really have not had any interaction with any Yang Mountain. Because for a long time, although there are many people who want to completely destroy any Yang Mountain, destruction, but we never felt that any Yang Mountain was an imminent trouble that needed to be solved. Before we moved the two-wheeled rocket launchers, there were still many people within us who questioned whether this was making a fuss out of Molehill, but judging from today's situation, we should have attacked any Yang Mountain earlier. Xia Bai looked at the person below. From these words, even a fool could tell that the core circle should be the leadership of intelligent zombies. Of course, this is not important. Why is it important to just know what the leadership organization is called? Xia Bai smiled half-heartedly and said, "Are your words a threat?" Chapter 281 Cooperation. Chapter 284 Cooperation. The intelligent zombie said, "This is not a threat, this is admiration." He looked up at the behemoth lying above his head and said slowly, "It's incredible. You are not from the human military, are you? How did you obtain such a thing?" Xia Bai smiled and said, "If you are not from the military, you might have picked up some awesome equipment. Why can't you?" The tone of Xia Bai's words was not very good. The intelligent zombie glanced into the sky and said, "Oh, Mr. Xia is really lucky. I admit that I really want to keep Mr. Xia in this battleship today, but judging from the current situation, it is obvious that I can no longer do this. Well, I have a proposal." Xia Bai's eyes narrowed slightly and said, "What do you want to say, Mr. Xia? Are you willing to cooperate with us?" This intelligent zombie with an extremely old face said solemnly, "Cooperate with us. No longer need to fight and consume each other like we are now. We can keep the same. This planet has vast and boundless space for human beings and us to survive." After what he said, Xia Bai had not yet responded, but the expressions of everyone below him changed slightly, and they all showed strange expressions. Xia Bai smiled and said, "Hey, this is really a new proposal. So, here comes the question. Let's cooperate with you, or alliance, which may sound better. The results of cooperation are not good for human beings. The benefits seem obvious. You restricted the zombies, and we were able to breathe a sigh of relief. So what benefits can you get from it?" When the intelligent zombie heard this, he immediately responded, "Safe." He only responded with one word, but Xia Bai understood exactly what the other person meant. Humans are threatened by zombies, but at the same time, zombies are also threatened by humans. Ordinary zombies may not be afraid of life and death at all, and do not care about topics such as survival and death. But for intelligent zombies, this is what they have to consider, especially now, is that most humans are already aware of the existence of intelligent zombies, and the military power in human hands will undoubtedly bring great survival to intelligent zombies. Intelligent zombies may have various biological advantages. They are not afraid of pain, will not die unless they are hit on the head, and even have body functions that far exceed those of ordinary people. However, such advantages are still difficult to deal with in the face of the weapons of the regular army. The elbows are visible. Compared with humans, they seem to be the ones who are really in the stage of development and need to take a breather. They are an emerging species that are developing at a high speed. Human beings' strong suppression is limiting their growth, and if both parties can a peaceful alliance at this time, seems to have only advantages and no disadvantages for them. Thinking from this point of view, it is indeed necessary for intelligent zombies to seek cooperation or even alliance. But the smile on Xia Bai's face did not change at all, which was in sharp contrast to the stiff facial muscles of the intelligent zombie. He smiled and said, "Then, here's a problem. If we don't mess with the river, then, what do you want? What to eat?" As we all know, the functions and existence of zombies come from viruses, and the survival of viruses requires organic matter to maintain. This is where the crazy desire of zombies to eat humans comes from. Of course, in many people's minds, zombies eat people because they have no brains. Intelligent zombies are different, because for a long time, intelligent zombies have felt no different from normal people, and in some cases, they can also exert some restraint on living people. But it is undeniable that living creatures are still the main food of intelligent zombies. They can eat zombies, but other zombies are also viruses. However, with this idea, many people can't help but think of the various film and television works and literary works they have watched before the end of the world, and feel that, since intelligent zombies have wisdom, they may be able to control themselves. Yes, but this is obviously not the case. Point. Whether ordinary zombies or intelligent zombies, although their viruses have some variations, they are still the same thing in the final analysis. The crazy desire shown by ordinary zombies for living creatures has not weakened in intelligent zombies. On the contrary, this appetite for living things still exists. The restraint they show is due to their wisdom, and the virus shell in the zombie state cannot make them show any excessive emotional fluctuations. Even if they look like humans, they are still different from real creatures. However, this restraint has its limits. Just like what the female intelligent zombie once said to Xia Bai and Balan before, this is a biological instinct written from the bones. There is no supplement for the virus in their bodies. It will gradually decline, and the overall function will drop significantly within 7 or 8 years. Although it will not die, it will also lose its current ability to fly over walls, like the kind of zombies in the real Resident Evil. They also move slowly, because even if they cannot eat organic matter from living bodies, they can still replenish new viruses from space. To survive until these zombies become extinct on their own, it may take hundreds or even thousands of years, and the natural systems of the earth will. It can only be done in one update iteration. Point. But this is impossible. This virus is a weapon. As a weapon, no matter whether it can kill all humans on the earth, whether it is ordinary zombies or intelligent zombies, even if they can go without food for a day, they can survive for 2 days. If you don't eat for days, you will eventually start to hunt humans. This is the same as taking drugs. It is impossible for intelligent zombies to restrain themselves and live in peace with humans like in movies, TV works and literature. Point. Moreover, the patience of intelligent zombies will never be long, and once they start hunting and eating, who can stop? Although the female intelligent zombie Xia Bai met in Yuanping City was crazy, what she said was true. Point. In fact, as early as half a year ago, the Changbei Mountain Scientific Research Center released a research report on this aspect, broadcasting this information to all covered areas, warning all human survivors to be wary of intelligent zombies, and not to believe in such any words a peaceful coexistence of living beings. But human beings are always magical creatures. They know what they cannot do, but they always feel that they can control everything, and even have miracles happen. In the end, they face an irreversible situation. Point. However, Xia Bai is not such a person. Chapter 282 Heaven. Chapter 285 Heaven. Xia Bai laughed and said, "Yes, this is a good proposal. Humans and intelligent zombies cooperate and do not invade each other. Does Changbei Mountain agree to your cooperation?" The intelligent zombie shook his head with a smile and said, "The inner circle didn't even convince Mr. Xia. How can anyone convince Changbei Mountain?" Xia Bai glanced at him and said, "Cooperation is not impossible. I have never been ambitious. If you don't touch me, I won't touch you. If you let me see your sincerity, I will be more willing to cooperate." The intelligent zombie said, "I wonder what Mr. Xia means by sincerity." Xia Bai said, "Within 1 day today, all the zombies around Anyang Mountain will be evacuated, and I want to see all the members of your inner circle." The intelligent zombie laughed and said, "The first one is not difficult. It may be difficult to evacuate within 1 day, but as long as Mr. Xia is sincere, we are willing to make the surrounding areas around Anyang Mountain invisible again within 3 days. A zombie, just, with all due respect, the members of the inner circle are spread across the entire planet, and even if we are willing to cooperate, Mr. Xia cannot possibly see everyone in the inner circle." Xia Bai looked at the person below with a smile. This intelligent zombie, after pondering for a moment, he said, "Can you represent you?" The "you" in his mouth is obviously the overall attitude of the intelligent zombies in the entire area. Point. The white-haired old man said solemnly, "The energy in the core circle is much greater than you think." Xia Bai glanced at him, nodded slightly, and said to Hao Zuan with a smile, "Hao Zuan, check to see if there are any survivors in the building behind, and prepare to close the team." Hao Zuan was slightly stunned when he heard this, and couldn't help but look at the white-haired intelligent zombie in front of him who was holding a gun against him. He was a little stunned. Shouldn't these intelligent zombies be killed first? Xia Bai's words were addressed to Quanks and Ao. Xia Bai also heard the instruction given by Xia Bai at the first time. Hao Zhuang had strong limbs and a simple mind, but Xia Bai knew very clearly that she was the first to. It took time to realize that if Xia Bai chose to retreat at this moment, he would undoubtedly agree to what the intelligent zombie said to some extent. However, are you crazy to work with intelligent zombies? Xia Bai immediately wanted to get in touch with Xia Bai, but at this time, Bailan's voice intervened and said directly, Captain Lu, please cooperate with Xia Bai's decision. Although you are from the military, you are now, while cooperating with the armed forces of Anyang Mountain, your reckless actions may bring unexpected trouble to everyone. Bai Lan's words were of course what Xia Bai meant. Xia Bai hesitated for a moment. Although she was a little unwilling, she still did not act rashly. Although Hao Zhuang's reaction was slow, the conversation between Xia Bai and the intelligent zombie was completely public. At this time, no matter how slow he was, he still reacted. Although Hao Zhuang's expression was somewhat strange, in his mind, Xia Bai is the boss, and he is following the boss. The boss's instructions must be correct. Therefore, he directly recruits people and sends people to thoroughly check the situation inside the building and confirm that there is no one inside. After it existed, he completely closed the team and returned to the battleship with his own people, including Xia Bai and other members of the Dawn team. Xia Bai also seemed very calm. He even waved to the intelligent zombie still standing on the steps through his display screen, and then directly cut off his own interface with the outside world, allowing Chen Shai and Sheng to directly pull up the battleship and pull it up vertically. Seeing that the battleship really seemed to be leaving, even the intelligent zombies on the ground looked at each other with stunned expressions. Xia Bai is still very famous in the Lao province, and his reputation is definitely not a good one. Words like bombing king, revenge, and extermination are all used to describe Xia Bai. But now they were bombing Xia Bai's warship just now. But now after just a few words of cooperation, Xia Bai really agreed and walked away. This isn't that too dramatic. The old intelligent zombie with white hair was standing on the ground. He first glanced at the body of the young intelligent zombie lying next to him on the ground, and then raised his head again and looked at the sky. The battleship inside fell into silence. The battleship did not leave, but kept rising vertically, getting higher and higher, even disappearing above the clouds. Butte in this deathly silence, the buzzing sound of the battleship's engine has not gone away. The 5th level battleship actually has a silent mode, but Xia Bai obviously has no intention of using this state. This was Xia Bai's own little thought. If not necessary, it would still be shocking to drive a battleship buzzing over other people's heads. This old intelligent zombie has realized something. Xia Bai didn't want to cooperate with them at all. And the fact seems to be true. After about 2 minutes, a heavy torpedo suddenly flew down from the sky, directly above the Xinli County camp, and landed with a bang in the center of the Xinli County camp. In just a moment, smoke and dust rose up. The next moment, the flames from the explosion engulfed the entire area, and the government building collapsed with a loud noise, like a mountain collapsing. This entire area is collapsing. Flames and smoke were rising, but Xia Bai's battleship was slowly turning above the clouds, turning around and flying towards Anyang Mountain. Although this torpedo looked like it was dropped like a bomb, in fact, Xia Bai actually fired it with his own battleship's launcher. He deliberately raised it to a very high altitude and fired a shot. This is mainly to test the performance of this thing. Although the relevant technical data given in the battleship are so detailed and accurate, Xia Bai is an ordinary person and has no idea about this kind of thing. What data? There is basically no use here. It is not as concise and clear as the test one. It's just that Xia Bai was a little disappointed that, except for an inner circle, he didn't get any useful information. The special characteristics of intelligent zombies meant that he couldn't gain confidence from them like interrogating normal people, a group of different people. People who fear death don't want to tell you anything, and you will never get it from them. Therefore, Xia Bai directly fired a shot to test the performance of his fish launcher, and by the way, send a member of the inner circle who was talking about being a train to the sky. Chapter 283, if you don't go, you'll miss the trip. Chapter 286. If you don't go, you'll miss the trip. Xia Bai's battleship turned back from the sky, dropped most of the irrelevant members of the fleet on Anyang Mountain, and then returned to the air raid shelter. Xia Bai stood on the apron previously opened for the helicopter formation in Anyang Mountain, and watched the battleship disappear at the other end of the mountain, feeling somewhat mixed. This guy is really surprising. Just now, he showed his absolute intention to cooperate with those intelligent zombies. However, in just a moment, Xia Bai directly dropped another torpedo, blasting all the intelligent zombies. This guy, doesn't he say anything about his ideas and plans? Xia Bai gritted his teeth inexplicably as he looked at the huge thing in front of him that disappeared into the sky. However, this is Anyang Mountain, and I'm not a leader of the military. Even if it is the military, sometimes the situation is inexplicable when performing tasks. However, Xia Bai seemed to have particularly strong opinions on Xia Bai, and was quite dissatisfied with Xia Bai's bandit style point. But at this moment, she suddenly heard an inappropriate voice coming from beside her. Damn, this thing from Xia Bai is awesome. Xia Bai turned around and saw Yi Hanyu coming up from nowhere and staring blankly at the place where Xia Bai's battleship disappeared, with dreamy starlight shining in his eyes. Xia Bai, when you came here, Yi Hanyu glanced at her. She had a very good impression of Captain Lu and spoke politely. I heard Xia Bai running away in a battleship when I woke up this morning. I thought, well, I didn't expect that. That guy Xia Bai's battleship has turned into such a thing. Xia Bai, after being silent for a moment, the captain of the Dawn Squad said with a speechless expression, who told you that Xia Bai ran away in a battleship? Yi Hanyu waved her hand and said, my dad. This guy wants me to climb into Xia Bai's bed, but Xia Bai is very stingy. Even if I climb up, he won't be willing to let me drive the battleship. Xia Bai was shocked when she heard this. She stared at the carefree Jayahura in front of her, thinking that what you said contained a lot of information. Yi Hanyu was already trotting forward at this moment. Only the voice came from far away. Captain Lu, I'm leaving first. We'll talk later. Xia Bai watched with a dark look on his face as this guy ran down the apron. Looking at the direction, he should be heading towards the air raid shelter, where the battleships were located in the back mountain point. As for what Yi Hanyu wants to do when she goes there now, Xia Bai only found it a bit unimaginable. After being stunned for a moment, the captain of the Dawn team slowly smiled, shook his head, turned around and walked away. At the same moment, while Yi Hanyu was in action somewhere on Anyang Mountain, Kyo Deming was in a daze. He was sitting in his room, and sitting on the other side was Zukyo Kyo. Kyo Deming had no expression on his face. He was holding a sweet potato produced in Anyang Mountain in his hand, and was eating it in a very strange way. He first pulled the skin off the sweet potato piece by piece, and then took the trouble to remove it piece by piece. He put the sweet potatoes into his mouth, and then started to eat the steaming sweet potatoes in small bites. Zukyo Kyo was sitting next to Kyo Deming. This girl had a hot figure. She wore a short shirt that exposed her navel, a pair of shorts with full legs underneath, and only a thin translucent jacket on the outside. The look on her face, but it was full of hatred that iron could not become steel. I said, old Kyo, can you be more capable? That guy Ziyacheng is trying to find a way to get himself on Mr. Xia's battleship, but you are here to eat sweet potato. Kyo Deming glanced at her. Half of the reason why he ate sweet potatoes slowly was to have something to do while being scolded by Zukyo Kyo. He thought for a while and said, the weather is not very good these days. Please put on more clothes for me. If I wear so little, I will suffer from cold legs, frozen shoulder, or even kidney function problems in the future. Zukyo Kyo leaned forward slightly, held her chin with one hand, and said with a smile, are you an old Chinese medicine doctor? Am I good looking? Hey, don't change the subject. I'm talking about your ambition. As for the matter, think about it. If Ziyacheng gets to Xia Bai's battleship, what would that mean? Wouldn't it mean that he is standing on top of our heads? Our position will drop. Kyo Deming took a bite of the sweet potato and said, fart, just like Ziyacheng. Do you think Xia Bai is blind, and can you bring him into his own spaceship? Although I don't know very well what the situation of Xia Bai's spaceship is, but it's not like you don't know Xia Bai. He seems to care nothing and doesn't know anything, but in his heart he is like Mingjing. If Xia comes closer, it may not be what the situation is, Tsukio said. Of course I know, but it is not only Xia who is working hard on Anyang Mountain, but also Xia is a flatterer. It is said that he even sent crabs to Xia Bai last time. No matter what kind of person, no one can stop him. A flatterer who lives kilometers away, and he can't get up there. Wouldn't that be just right? If we can get up there, TSK, then our status in Anyang Mountain. What are you doing? Why are you leaving? Tsukio was talking here, but Kyo Deming over there stood up from his seat. He had finished eating the sweet potatoes in his hand, and walked straight out. Tsukio became anxious and stood up. Hey, why are you going, Kyo? Deming had already walked out of the door at this time, and only the voice came back from afar. What are you doing? We are going to find someone to stuff into Xia Bai's battleship. If you don't go, will you miss the trip, Kyo? Deming walked in the corridor outside, muttering to himself somewhat depressedly. Damn it, this bastard Xia is too good at flattering, isn't he? Where did you get crabs in this damn time? And in the back room, listening to Kyo Deming's voice, Tsukio couldn't help being slightly stunned. Obviously, Tsukio's persuasion worked. But Tsukio sighed, and when she followed him out, Kyo Deming didn't know where he had gone. At this moment, an acquaintance of Tsukio happened to pass by. She thought for a moment, and pulled the other person in front of her and said, Xiaoli, tell me, don't I look good in this body? He was a young man of college age who looked very dull. He glanced at Tsukio and scanned her back and forth twice. He didn't know what to say. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 284, Xia Bai the Butcher. Chapter 287, Xia Bai the Butcher. Xia Bai really doesn't know what the current situation is in Anyang Mountain. He was bringing the battleship back from the sky to the air raid shelter. Although he let Liu Yibei and others down, Hao Zhuang, Chen Shai and Cheng, Bailan and others were still following Xia Bai's battleship. Returned to the air raid shelter behind. Xia Bai planned to briefly introduce the current internal functions of the battleship to them. When all the functions of the battleship were launched in the future, he would not have to be as hasty as he was today. But Chen Shai and Cheng and Hao Zhuang were completely surprised by Xia Bai's battleship. They had said nothing before when everyone was there, but now they were like children who got a new toy after receiving Xia Bai's gift. After obtaining the authority, he ran around throughout the battleship. Bailan is not that interested. When she was upgrading the 4th level battleship, Bailan told Xia Bai that she was not a militant person. She was a girl, although she was also concerned about what Xia Bai now had. It was incredible, but battleships and cannons were a man's dream, and she really didn't think there was anything exciting about it. But Bailan is also a little happy, because the existence of such a thing means that the safety factor of Anyang Mountain and them will increase again. Bailan didn't care about those who had or didn't. She just hoped that the people around her could live well and not die in this apocalyptic catastrophe. Therefore, while Hao Zhuang and Chen Shai and Cheng were wandering around the battleship, she was still in the control room of the bridge with Xia Bai. Bailan smiled, glanced at Xia Bai beside him, and said, to be honest, Xia Bai, I'm a little curious. Did you make this thing? Is it a modification of the previous thing? Xia Bai has a secret, and Bailan and the others actually know that. Unlike the other survivors on Anyang Mountain, Bailan and the others have been fighting with Xia Bai from the beginning of the apocalypse to today, and even watched the battleship in disbelief time and time again, transforming and becoming more and more powerful. Everyone knew that Xia Bai's battleship was unusual. In this world, everyone has a desire to know. Of course Bailan and the others are curious and want to know, but for a long time, no one has ever asked, even Hao Zhuang, who doesn't have so many brains, and Yi Hanyu, who looks carefree. I would never ask such a question. The reason is also very simple. It is respect. This is someone else's secret, and it seems that this secret is by no means simple. Xia Bai didn't want to say it, so they just wanted to leave Xia Bai space. Some people said that secrets between strangers are secrets, and there shouldn't be secrets between close people. That's pure nonsense. A close relationship is a close relationship. What is the relationship between Xia Bai and Beilan? There is no doubt about that, but similarly, no matter how close the relationship is, it is not without a bottom line. What maintains a close relationship is not that you can treat others unscrupulously, but that you have to learn to respect others and leave others to themselves. Space and bottom line point today. Facing Beilan's question, Xia Bai was slightly stunned. He glanced at Beilan. To be honest, he didn't want to lie to Beilan, so he hesitated a little. However, Beilan didn't let Xia Bai say anything. She just smiled and said, whether it's transformation or something else, it doesn't matter, does it, Beilan usually has the kind of iceberg face that she keeps away from strangers, and her whole temperament also gives people a cold feeling, but when she smiles, she gives people a completely different feeling. Status. Her smile is as warm as the wind. Before Xia Bai could say anything, Beilan said again, I know you trust us and want us to be the main control and management of this battleship, but from what I just saw, everything in this huge ship under our feet is different from the previous ships. It may be more technical. We are afraid. When Xia Bai heard this, he already understood what Beilan wanted to say. He smiled and said, if you don't come, it will be the same whoever comes instead. There are no real professionals in any Yang Mountain. We can't let the military send people to help. It's okay. There is Alpha in the battleship, and it can give you sufficient guidance. No one is born with the ability to do anything. Beilan smiled and said, you are really not afraid that we will screw you up? Xia Bai said, how is that possible? Didn't any Yang Mountain handle it well? When we turn around and take back all our own people, any Yang Mountain will completely delegate power to Huang Qiulan and the others. Beilan was slightly surprised when she heard this. Although she knew that Xia Bai implemented the policy of letting go of the boss, she didn't expect that Xia Bai now wanted to drag all of them who had followed Xia Bai back to the battleship. You must know that Hao Zhuang now controls a considerable part of the Yang Mountain Guards, while Beilan, Yang Xin and others supervise the political leaders of Yang Mountain. Huang Qiulan, Chen Qianqing and Li Jinggang are in charge of the technical command center. Although it seems that Xia Bai is a hands-off shopkeeper, but Beilan and the others have actually been serving as Xia Bai's tentacles and are deeply involved in various areas of Yang Mountain, large and small. Xia Bai wants to withdraw them all now, which is actually equivalent to completely delegating power to Yang Mountain. He may even lose control of Yang Mountain in the future. Beilan is of course surprised. Xia Bai smiled and shook his head. He patted the battleship console in front of him and said something very correct. Do you want to master the earth, or do you want to soar into the sky? Beilan understood the meaning of Xia Bai's words. She couldn't help laughing and said, Captain Lu's assessment is really right. People who don't know think you are a ruthless butcher, but you, in fact, he is a bandit poisoned by 2 dimensions. Xia Bai said, I'll go. It's been so long since that happened before. Captain Lu still thinks I'm a bandit. Beilan glanced at Xia Bai and said, I see why you are quite happy. Xia Bai joked, Xia Bai is the captain of the Dawn Squadron. And what is the Dawn Squadron? They are the special forces among the special forces, the elite among the elites. If she said I was a bandit, then I'm definitely the top bandit. Beilan twitched the corners of his mouth and said, then there are still people who say you are a butcher. Xia Bai said, I'm the actual leader of Yang Mountain and the captain of the battleship. Shouldn't I be the butcher? Beilan glanced at him, but his eyes moved to the deck of the battleship at his feet and suddenly said, this is your battleship and you are the captain. So, does your ship have a name? Chapter 285. One thing brings down another thing. Chapter 288. One thing drops another thing. Xia Bai was troubled by Beilan's words. He has been driving the battleship for a long time, and the battleship has suddenly reached the 5th level from the 1st level point, but Xia Bai didn't seem to have given any serious names to his battleships, because Xia Bai has always been a pragmatist, and he only has one battleship, and has no concept of formation at all. So what's the use of naming it? But Xia Bai was slightly moved when Beilan said this. Do you want to give your battleship a majestic and domineering name? Then spread the word, and wherever your warship flies from now on, others will panic and shout that so and so is coming. It should be a very interesting and exciting scene. So, what's it called? Yamato. Dauntless. Still, however, Xia Bai couldn't spend too much time thinking about the name of the battleship, because at this moment, Alpha suddenly sent out a reminder. Outside the air raid shelter area, someone entered the battleship dock warning area. The battleship dock is actually an air raid shelter, and the warning area is actually a part of the surrounding area of the battleship air raid shelter. After all, this is also a military restricted area in any young mountain point. Xia Bai gave Alpha very high authority. Not only could he control some functions inside the battleship, he could even supervise the monitoring system deployed in the environment outside the battleship, and provide Xia Bai with reminders when necessary. The person who came was actually not a dangerous person, but a good story that Xia Bai had not seen for a long time. Yi Hanyu. Moreover, Yi Hanyu didn't come alone. She also brought a little girl with her, who was also someone Xia Bai hadn't seen for a long time. Yi Zhaoqi. Yi Zhaoqi has really not been seen by Xia Bai for a long time. With the establishment of any young mountain survivor base, Xia Bai is busy with various things every day, and has almost never seen Yi Zhaoqi. But today, when Xia Bai saw Yi Zhaoqi and Yi Hanyu coming here together, she had some bad premonitions. These two guys are both named Yi, and they are a pair of sisters. Xia Bai remembered the last time the two of them got together. He couldn't help but turn his eyes to Beilan beside him and said, Beilan, I'll leave these two to you. I'll go find Hao Zhuang and the others. Beilan glanced at Xia Bai with a half smile and said, Zhaoqi said she wanted to see you a few days ago. Why don't you look at her? And Hanyu has not been in good condition these past 2 days. I feel like you might be able to comfort her, such as having a drink with her or something. Xia Bai looked hesitant for a moment. He glanced at the two people in the picture, who were holding hands, and looked like a pair of biological sisters. His eyes especially stayed on Yi Hanyu for a short moment, especially when he thought about what Beilan just said, to have a drink with her or something. At this moment, Xia Bai couldn't help but gasped, then shook his head very decisively and said, leave it to you. Leave it to you. Then Xia Bai just waved his hand and went down to the lower deck. First point. Seeing this, Beilan smiled slightly. In this world, sometimes one thing really comes down to another. There were so many people who couldn't do anything to Xia Bai, but Xia Bai was at a loss when he saw the mischievous Yi Hanyu. Xia Bai ran away. But Yi Hanyu couldn't make any trouble in front of Beilan. Beilan is like a big sister to Yi Zhaoqi and Yi Hanyu. Together, they will be intimidated. As long as Beilan glares, this can be regarded as one thing reducing one thing. And Xia Bai was not idle either. He took Hao Zhuang and others around the battleship and introduced them to the two intelligent systems in the battleship. He probably wandered into the living area in a space capsule state. In a circle. Hao Zhuang complained to Xia Bai that the crew rest area of the battleship was almost the same as a capsule hotel. Of course, this is actually a fact. Xia Bai's battleship has reached the 5th level. Although the size has been greatly expanded, the internal space still seems crowded. Although the crew's living space has finally appeared, the living space still has to be for other people. If the functional modules are compromised, of course there will be no good scale here. Moreover, Xia Bai, as the captain, does not even have his own captain's room in the battleship. Xia Bai also told Hao Zhuang and Chen Shai and Sheng his idea, that is, to withdraw all their personnel in any Yang mountain back to the battleship and develop the battleship with all their strength. Although the functions of the 5th level battleship are not much more than those of the 4th level battleship, the increase in size and the increase in various functions also require real manpower to fill it. Alpha's intelligence is limited, and Xia Bai cannot let Alpha do it all to replace labor. The operation of one person plus an AI controlling a battleship may be possible in the future, but it is obviously not that perfect now. Point of course, even at that time, artificial power is still necessary. Point intelligence has the benefits of intelligence, and it can even do things that humans can never do, but intelligence does not mean everything. Point moreover, Xia Bai also emphatically talked to Hao Zhuang about the recruitment issue. Point all combat personnel and medical personnel on the battleship must be fully staffed. When the battleship reaches level 5, it shows another sign. Now it is recruiting people. In fact, everyone can guess that this is Xia Bai's battleship recruiting people. This means that they recruiting people will definitely not be as difficult as before, but there will also be all kinds of random people mixed in. Point Xia Bai still meant multiple checks to ensure that everyone entering the battleship was safe and reliable. Point Chen Shai and Sheng finally said, I don't know if it's right for us to consolidate our power like this, but I feel that Huang Qiulan will be happy this time. Chen Shai and Sheng is telling the truth. Xia Bai's large-scale delegation of power means that Huang Qiulan's power will be even greater. Chen Shai and Cheng smiled and said, however, this should not have any impact on us. Our current warships are already towering over Anyang Mountain, just like the kingdom of gods in the magical world. There is nothing. The root cause of the conflict of interest is mutual benefit and mutual help, so there won't be any big problems. And Sister Huang Qiulan is still a very good person. Xia Bai glanced at him and said, you idiot, fly a helicopter for me from tomorrow and practice your skills properly. And that guy Li Jingjiang, go back and call him over. I have him here. A UAV combat cluster formation is to be handed over to him. Chapter 286 Killing zombies in exchange for resources. Chapter 289 Killing zombies in exchange for resources. The situation of the 5th level battleships are gradually getting back on track. Point the day after his appearance in Xinli County, Xia Bai began another leveling journey. Then, he put into use the first batch of energy collection devices built by the battleship. Hao Zhuang led the Anyang Mountain Guards members to conduct testing. Point. That energy collection device is very strange. Its overall shape is like an old-fashioned radio. From the appearance, it looks like a rectangular black box, but it is not light in weight, and it has a kind of genetic lock. The same thing can be bound and separated from living organisms. Only when the gene binding at this level is completed can this thing be officially started. According to the system's instructions, this kind of binding at the genetic level and this thing collecting energy is also related, and this is where the individual energy collection device comes from. Point as for this thing, the effect and range of collecting energy are within a range of 10 square meters. The energy points accumulated through this thing can be fed back into the battleship through a specific device. Point on a small display screen of this thing, he counted the amount of energy points currently stored in it. Xia Bai tested it and found that the maximum storage amount of this thing is 300 points. In other words, this thing can store up to 300 points at a time. Hundreds of energy points. When reaching this value, the energy points need to be fed back to the battleship to be emptied before the energy points can continue to be accumulated. Point this is a low-level energy collection device after all. Moreover, Xia Bai's plan is to win by quantity. It is impossible for ordinary survivors to kill 300 zombies by themselves and report back. In this era, not everyone can. They all have battleships like Xia Bai. Xia Bai was a little surprised when he saw this level. Such a big thing can accumulate up to 300 energy points at a time, but a battleship can have unlimited energy points. In fact, Xia Bai has always been very strange about what energy points are. Although this thing is closely related to the upgrading of battleships and the creation of items, it is actually an invisible and intangible thing. But undoubtedly, as an energy situation, it really exists, because using energy points to create weapons and upgrade warships is actually the principle of energy conservation. Point for this reason, Xia Bai specially disassembled an energy collection device in the battleship's laboratory, but unfortunately, the inside of this thing is all mechanical structure, and there is nothing to store energy. The collected energy, as if it was stored in an alien space. Point, but storing it in an alien space is inconceivable. At least the current 5th level battleship theory cannot do it. The technology required for this thing is even more incredible than any high-end Star Wars super weapon. Although what people see space storage is always a simple thing, but this thing is actually the most difficult to do point in this world. All space related technologies are truly top-notch technologies. Although the 5th level battleship has scientific research functions, there is no way to find out where the energy points stored in this energy collection device are stored point, although it is a bit difficult to understand. Xia Bai is not too disappointed. After all, energy points are the core and foundation for the upgrade and strengthening of the entire battleship and battleship system. With the scientific research capabilities of a 5th level battleship, he wants to study and understand the principle of this thing by himself. Obviously it's not a simple matter, of course. There is actually no need to research on manufacturing items in a battleship. As long as there are enough energy points, anything can be manufactured. The necessity of the existence of scientific research facilities within the warship is mainly to manufacture low-cost things that can be mass-produced by oneself, and then to study some foreign things, such as the No-1 target that Xia Bai brought back from Bencheng last time. The scientific research facilities on battleships exist for the purpose of studying other people's technology. All in all, although Xia Bai did not understand the mechanism of this energy point and where it was stored in the end, he still distributed the energy collection devices he had made in a batch. Anyang Mountain is Xia Bai's hometown, and his huge 5th level battleship has just been unveiled on Anyang Mountain. Of course, taking this thing out now has full support. Huang Qiulan learned that Xia Bai wanted to after completely delegating power. To show his sincerity, he also cooperated with Xia Bai very much. Of course, Xia Bai had already had his own ideas about the promotion of this kind of thing. He promoted energy points as a new type of currency. Survivors who obtained energy points could obtain materials from Huang Qiulan through energy points. After going back and forth like this, Xia Bai got energy points, but the materials were provided by Huang Qiulan and Anyang Mountain. He was earning energy points. Xia Bai had invested so much in building Anyang Mountain, and now it was finally time to enjoy the results. You can exchange supplies by killing zombies, which makes many people on Anyang Mountain excited. Xia Bai felt that he was one step closer to the wealthy landlords who exploited the people's wealth and wealth. Of course, zombies are not that easy to kill. Anyang Mountain is now in a state of zombie siege. Except for the Anyang Mountain guards who can shoot zombies outside the wall, it is actually difficult for other Anyang Mountain survivors to come into contact with zombies. Forget about accumulating energy points. However, the energy collection device in Xia Bai's hands now is not enough. The cost of building this thing is not low, and Xia Bai had only reserved less than 20,000 energy points for himself before. To upgrade the battleship, energy points need to be spent in various places, and it is impossible to use them all to create energy collection devices. The most important thing is that the energy collection device cannot be promoted in Anyang Mountain for the time being. If Xia Bai wants to let others help him accumulate energy points in this way, he needs to let the survivors in the entire area and even the army, all combatants on the other side, must bring their own things. But the method currently being implemented on Anyang Mountain is good and may be promoted on a larger scale in the future. That is, exchanging energy points for real materials. Moreover, the energy collection device is not a one-time use thing. Once it is manufactured, the benefits will be long-term. Perhaps the amount of energy points Xia Bai has to spend is not so appropriate from now on, but in the long run, it will get better and even bring huge positive benefits. However, judging from the current situation, the energy points collected by the energy collection device for Xia Bai every day are not as much as Xia Bai spending an hour outside shooting zombies. Chapter 287 Attack. Chapter 290 Attack. August 21. 2219. A small wave of infection broke out in the survivor residential area east of the Changbai Mountain survivor base. Nearly 1,000 people turned into zombies or were bitten. The survivors in the entire Changbai Mountain seemed panicked. Some people claim that intelligent zombies have been mixed into the Changbai Mountain survivor base, and now they are preparing to dismantle the Changbai Mountain survivor base from the inside out. On August 22nd, An Kisheng's army defeated another wave of corpses with a scale of more than 100,000. In the front of Bai Mountain Point, most of the zombies that survived the bombing had their bodies broken, crawling blankly on the scorched earth full of gunpowder smoke and flames. But Heng did not expect that at this point in time, an explosive attack would occur on the Bai Mountain survivor base. Zombie infection situation point. Speculation swelling among survivors also have an impact on Heng point. There are intelligent zombies in Bai Mountain, and Ki is very clear about it. Then, he must consider whether this is some small trick of intelligent zombies, using the defeated zombie tied outside to paralyze himself, so that he can survive inside Bai Mountain. Make a big mess. August 23rd point. And Ki was beginning to take action. On the one hand, he sent personnel to suppress and control the epidemic. On the other hand, he called Huang Liang up. Huang Liang is an intelligent zombie and an important figure in the mutual rescue club that is now flourishing at the Bai Mountain survivor base. For a long time before, and Heng did not want to have direct contact with intelligent zombies, because direct contact might mean endless troubles and even bring political impact to himself, but he felt that it's time to put real pressure on these aliens and monsters. He wanted Huang Liang to give him an explanation on a deeper level, and Ki was thinking about whether he could take this opportunity to weaken the power of the intelligent zombies in the Bai Mountain survivor base. Although Heng allowed the existence of intelligent zombies on the Bai Mountain survivor base, as the actual ruler of the Bai Mountain survivor base, he was well aware of the movements of Huang Liang and other intelligent zombies. How many intelligent zombies were there? And even what everyone is doing every day, and Heng has a clear grasp of it. Therefore, what he and Yang Wenchen said before, his confidence in being able to control the situation comes from this. Intelligent zombies certainly have their strength, but in the face of real modern power, they are like a group of primitive people. Not only are their equipment primitive, but their reconnaissance and anti-reconnaissance capabilities are a mess. In Heng's view, intelligent zombies are not even as strong as ordinary people against surveillance and electronic facilities. This seems inevitable, because intelligent zombies were born in a post-apocalyptic world. The heinous surveillance system and information explosion system of the old era had long since collapsed. Even if intelligent zombies want to understand, they cannot really build anything. Awareness comes. Huang Liang was surprisingly cooperative. He immediately took a few people to drive up from the survivors' residential area below into the military control area, and his explanation of the situation this time was quickly passed on to Enki, right in front. But before Enki could check that thing, he heard a howl coming from downstairs of the Bai Mountain Command Center, where he was since the apocalypse. And Heng has rarely been to the front line, and has rarely had a head-on battle with zombies. However, he has watched countless battles through the screen, and seen countless kinds of terrifying creatures in the apocalypse. Therefore, the moment he heard the sound, he realized that it was a Type 3 virus-infected person. And he was pushing away the obstruction of his guard, came to the window edge, looked down, and saw a huge Type 3 virus infection appearing downstairs in the command center where he was, causing a large area of riots. The combat personnel on the scene took action immediately to strangle this huge creature. And Heng's expression changed continuously. This Type 3 virus infected body appeared here, but Heng only felt incredible. Type 3 virus infections can appear anywhere, but they are least likely to appear here. What is this place? This is the top of Bai Mountain, the joint camp of the military headquarters of the Bai Mountain survivor base. Even if a person wants to come here, he needs to go through layers of review and investigation. There are countless review thresholds during this process, let alone such a monster, and he felt incredible. However, in addition to this incredible feeling, there is more of an unspeakable fear. Because what does it mean that something that obviously cannot appear here appears here? And Heng didn't think that a Type 3 virus infection could destroy their command center, but what the incident represented was frightening, even, and he felt that something big was going to happen. At this moment, in the command center, he heard someone reporting hurriedly from behind. The 16th missile camp on the outskirts of Bai Mountain opened fire abnormally. In just 2 seconds, 1/3 of the firepower of the position was cleared. Half of them are all coming to us. The latest situation is that the 23rd missile site has just opened fire. The camp we deployed below was attacked by strong pulse weapons. there was a serious communication failure. We can only confirm that the top-level defense system conducted fire control interception of the missile. Xia Bai's expression changed. He saw the elevated forts at the far end of the Xia Bai mountain survivor base firing into the sky, and at the far end of the clouds, missiles were roaring from the night sky. At this moment, Xia was thinking that Yang Wenchen had launched an attack. The former top military leader in the 3 eastern provinces was unwilling to fail, and was now ready to attack himself. However, Xia Bai seemed to have no time to verify the authenticity of this situation. Because the next moment, the whole earth rumbled and trembled. Zombies do not have heavy firepower. This is something that everyone knows. No one would have thought that their own people would hit them, or the bottom of the mountain would hit the top of the mountain. For the missiles launched, this happens in an instant, even if there are only 2 missiles. The position fired towards the mountain, but it was still not possible to intercept them. Amid the violent shocks and explosions, Xia Bai's body fell down. He held onto the wall with his hands and struggled to stabilize his body. At the same moment, not far from the command center, heavy-duty green military pickup trucks were roaring towards them. The plot of the third line supporting characters has been largely abbreviated as suggested by everyone. Chapter 288. What the hell? Chapter 291. What the hell? Xia Bai immediately noticed the military trucks that rolled over from the mess and fire. He immediately thought there were troops coming for reinforcement. This seems to be the case. The 2 vehicles in front stopped, and those who jumped out from behind were all fully armed military personnel. However, there was no movement on the third military truck at the end. The military combatants in front also discovered the anomaly here at the first time. They separated a group to fight against the 3 that was still howling near the command center and attacking everything around it. The remaining virus-infected bodies were close to the military truck that was pulling back, wanting to check the situation on the vehicle. And it was at this moment that the person sitting in the driver's seat in front suddenly opened the door behind him, and he jumped out of the car, carrying a pistol, and fired directly at the people here. The combatants here are all top-notch people in the military. Almost as soon as this person opened fire, these people also opened fire one after another. However, several rounds of bullets hit the driver's body. Apart from his body shaking slightly due to the huge force, the opponent did not have any other reaction. He was still stepping forward and firing steadily. This is an intelligent zombie. The soldiers immediately turned their guns and hit the driver on the head. But, at this moment, these soldiers also heard some kind of beast-like whisper coming from behind them, on top of the military truck, driven by this intelligent zombie. A predator-like type 3 virus-infected body was slowly stepping down. At this moment, Xia Bai did not see the scene below. He had already returned to the scene, staring closely at the summary information coming from various places, his face becoming increasingly ugly. Just now, missiles bombed half of the military area, and the entire area fell into chaos. Several key buildings collapsed. Not only did type 3 virus infections appear at the foot of the command center, but also in other places. Similar things have appeared. But now, the communication between the top of Xia Bai mountain and the various division headquarters and positions below is a mess, intermittent, and among the survivors, a large amount of chaos has begun to erupt, and a large number of infected people have appeared. Judging from the current situation, Yang Wenchen should have nothing to do with this matter. On the contrary, this is more likely to be planned and led by intelligent zombies, especially the explosion that broke out in the survivor living area of the Xia Bai mountain survivor base at this moment. A large-scale infection cannot be expanded to such a scale by just a zombie biting an individual. The source of infection may have been planted a few hours ago, or in other words, the current zombies should have been planted a few hours ago. The infection process has already begun, and is just waiting to explode at this moment. The intelligent zombies took action one step earlier than Xia Bai, and they did so without any warning, and the scale and toughness were beyond Xia Bai's expectations. Xia said angrily, "Who told me? What is going on? What is our surveillance system for? Why do our own positions launch missiles at us? Why is the wisdom that is always under our surveillance can type zombies create so many infected people without us noticing? This feeling is not good." A moment ago, Nkis Heng felt that he could control everything, but now he realized that the situation was actually not under his control. He knew that the intelligent zombies were laying out and had their own plans, but he always thought that he could control intelligent zombies with applause. But now, he didn't even know how the intelligent zombies transported type 3 virus infected bodies here. There was silence. And he was staring at the many screens in front of him and said solemnly, "Let all the troops we can contact come back for reinforcement." First, he listened to the howls of the type 3 virus infected bodies coming from downstairs, and after a moment of silence, he said solemnly, "Let them rush to the rescue camp at the foot of the mountain first, and help the government strangle the infected people. If the intelligent zombies want to take over the Bai Mountain survivor base, the current methods are not enough. They must use the chaos created now to let the real zombie army approach Bai Mountain. Our feet will directly overwhelm us. Therefore, the direction of the outer layer cannot be crossed. There are also 2 positions that fire on our own side. Immediately let the nearby troops clear them. It is better to kill than let go. Any suspicious characters will be killed on the spot. And let all the survivor forces within the survivors participate in the battle. The sooner we clear out the zombies in the survivor camp, the better it will be for us. Let companies like Xia Group, Zeus Pharmaceuticals, and Eshin Heavy Industry give me use your strength. As for here, when all the situations are summarized, you all can retreat underground with me." At this moment, a commissioner below immediately said, "Just now, we received a request for reinforcement from the Xia Group. Their convoy is driving here and has been stopped by the outer cordon." "Do we?" Enki frowned and said, "Where is Huang Liang? Where has he been?" "Stuck in the same place with people from the Xia Group." Ki's expression suddenly changed, and he said, "Fire on the spot, no matter who is from the Xia Group or the Mutual Rescue Association. Shoot them on the spot." Just after this message was passed on, another commissioner on the other side said, "We received information from the Anyang Mountain Survivor Base." Who said they want to provide us with military assistance?" This sound was accompanied by the howling of the extreme mutant below. The thing seemed to be impacting the building. After the impact, the whole building shook slightly, and the walls of the dome fell down. Nkis Heng frowned. "What the hell?" He glanced at the radar and saw far away in Liao province, a behemoth sailing from the direction of Anyang Mountain and heading towards Bai Mountain at high speed. The commissioner didn't seem to understand what Nkis Heng meant. He thought Nkis Heng didn't understand. After being stunned for a moment, he said, "The other party's identity information has been confirmed. It is Anyang Xia Bai, an ordinary survivor force. After learning about the situation in Bai Mountain, they are, about to provide us with military assistance." "Ordinary survivor forces provide military assistance to Bai Mountain?" Enki asked. "Is he here to make fun of you?" Nkis Heng really laughed, and he was laughing angrily. Chapter 289 Out of Control. Chapter 292 Losing Control. The entire Bai Mountain survivor base was in turmoil. After a round of bombing, many places have been paralyzed. Around the core command center, 2 huge extreme mutants have appeared, launching attacks unscrupulously. A large number of personnel have been dispatched to encircle and suppress this creature, and in the lower defense zone of Bai Mountain, more military forces began to intervene in the Bai Mountain survivors' residential area. The survivors' residential area in Bai Mountain has a dense population of survivors. Once the infection breaks out, the consequences are unimaginable. Once the infection breaks out on a large scale, there will be an unstoppable trend of infected people. At the same time, Enki was moving to the underground defense base. Just a few minutes ago, Huang Liang took advantage of the chaos to break through the outer checkpoint and took advantage of the chaotic situation to rush in this direction with his men. The facilities around the command center suffered serious damage in the bombing just now, and there were a large number of casualties. And now the combat personnel are in a stalemate with the type 3 virus infected bodies, which means that there is no ready-made effective force that can be used to prevent the emergence of the virus. Here Huang Liang and others. Enki was being guarded by a group of people and was preparing to retreat into the underground defense facilities. In his opinion, although the intelligent zombies were coming menacingly, it was actually just a matter of one breath. As long as this wave was suppressed, no matter what plan these intelligent zombies make, as long as they fail to proceed now, they will be suppressed by themselves sooner or later. Zombies are zombies after all. There is nothing wrong with Nkisheng's idea. This is Changbai Mountain after all. Although the scale of the intelligent zombies raid is far beyond Nkisheng's expectation, as long as the military in Changbai Mountain calms down, the intelligent zombies will. It is impossible to cause any more waves. However, Huang Liang and the others moved faster than Nkisheng expected. Nki had just descended to the first floor and was about to move towards the underground facilities when a loud noise suddenly came from the direction of the wall on one side. Huang Liang and others blasted in directly. The two type 3 virus infected bodies outside resisted most of the local guards, greatly limiting the defense force. And because of the special location of the previous bombing and command center, it is difficult for the heavy weapons needed to kill these two type 3 virus infected bodies to work here and now. The guards around Nkisheng rushed forward immediately to meet the enemy. Nki was walking downwards under the protection of a crowd of people and amid the intensive gunfire coming from behind. The level of underground defense facilities in the command center is quite high. As long as the blockade is turned on, no one can blow it open unless it is bombed with missiles. Although this place and the entire command center were built after the apocalypse as the military headquarters for the entire Changbai Mountain survivors, the building level and facilities here are quite high. Nki heard the incessant sound of gunfire behind him and followed the people surrounding him as he walked down. The gunshots from behind were getting closer and closer to them, and there were fewer and fewer people around Nkisheng. But Nki also withdrew into the underground facility at this moment. The door was slowly closing. Nki turned around and saw that in the corridor directly in front of him, Huang Liang was bearing the brunt of the attack. He was leading a group of intelligent zombies with bloodstains and scars everywhere on their bodies, facing the intensive firepower at high speed. The ground rushed. If this was a group of soldiers, they would definitely be the most fierce and fearless soldiers. Zombies have no sense of pain. The only fatal part is the head. Unless the head is hit, even if their body is smashed, they can still maintain their stock. Huang Liang and others were obviously well prepared. They had obtained all military equipment from nowhere. They were armed to the teeth, and the key head was equipped with masks and helmets. The whole building was rumbling. It was a type 3 virus infection that was hitting the command center, but there were fewer and fewer people around Nkisheng. Huang Liang and others were approaching at high speed, and the door of the underground safety facility was closing heavily. Nki was retreating slightly, staring closely at the scene in front of him, already anticipating the worst consequences. Sure enough, the only remaining warriors in front of him were unable to stop Huang Liang and other intelligent zombies at the last moment, when the door of the safe house was about to close. Huang Liang rushed in with his men. At this time, the only ones left around Nkisheng were administrative staff. Of course, military administrators are also capable of combat operations. A group of people rushed in, and a gentlewoman standing directly in front of Nki took out a small and exquisite pistol from her waist and was about to fire in an instant. However, Huang Liang has already seen all this. His body is only about the size of a junior high school student. The virus can make people resurrect from the dead, but except for extreme mutations, it cannot make people grow again. Therefore, such a long time has passed, Huang Liang has not changed much. But he still reached out his hand immediately and directly blocked the muzzle of the woman's raised gun with his own palm. With a muffled sound, the bullet made a bloody pit in Huang Liang's hand, and then he raised his hand and hit the woman's torso 3 times in a row. Although the shot hit too vital a position, but these 3 shots were enough to carry the opponent's body down with a bang. Other intelligent zombies are taking control of the situation, and the door to the safe house is once again opened from the inside out. Things have progressed to this moment, and Nkisheng has already lost the first step. But Nkisheng still seemed very calm. He looked at the slightly funny junior high school student wearing a set of military equipment in front of him and said slowly, "It seems that you are not very disciplined." Huang Liang laughed, stepped on the corpse on the ground, and walked towards Nkisheng, who was at the back of the crowd, and said, "You don't want to abide by the rules, Mr. Ren." He came to Nkisheng's side and grabbed Nkisheng's collar from behind. He was half a head shorter than Nkizheng, but he pulled Nkizheng around like a small animal. Such a dignified top figure in Changbai Mountain dragged him towards the safe house and finally threw him on the sofa in the restroom of the back room. Nkey felt that he had been humiliated and looked a little angry. If you couldn't catch anyone with such clumsy means before the end of the world, with my security level, you would simply, Huang. Liang glanced at him and said, but now is now, Mr. N. This sentence made Nkizheng calm down. He was a violent person, but this state of losing his mind still would not affect his mood for too long. He was silent for a moment and asked, how did you do it? Missiles, and our surveillance, monitoring systems, and defenses along the way. Chapter 290 Inner Circle. Chapter 293 Inner Circle. The safe house was not sealed, so the loud rumbling noises from outside could still be heard. Not only the sound of the two Type 3 virus infected bodies exchanging fire with the military, but also the sounds of fighting coming from farther away. The key target of the intelligent zombie attack is the command center, even though the defense level on Changbai Mountain is not as strong as before the apocalypse. It cannot be easily overturned by intelligent zombies. The opponent's victory over the command center in such a short period of time, and in a thunderous manner, means that the opponent's arrangements in other locations are there are some omissions, especially in the military area at the top of Changbai Mountain. Due to geographical reasons, although this is not a place where heavy troops are hoarded, it is the core of Changbai Mountain. The defense force is definitely not weak. Intelligent zombies may be able to survive the survivors below. They caused a big mess in the camp, but here in Changbai Mountain, they have absolutely no such ability. There are so many capable people on Changbai Mountain that there is no point in catching yourself. If intelligent zombies want to completely destroy the Changbai Mountain survivor base, they must attack it with a real zombie wave. The chaos caused now is just for the corpse tide to cross the human line of fire and reach the foot of Changbai Mountain. As long as Changbai Mountain can quickly stabilize its position, intelligent zombies will never be able to overturn the Changbai Mountain survivor base. And Nkizheng also believes that there is nothing wrong with the series of orders he just issued. Although the command center is now paralyzed, and he cannot continue to command in the safe house, it does not matter. It has been 2 years since the end of the world. The army below was not created through hard work in the apocalypse. Which commander doesn't have two brushes in his hand? Nkey is getting the most important message across, and they know what to do. This was actually Nkizheng's initial judgment. Although he lost his temper slightly just now, because the safe house was taken down, he quickly reacted, and even calmed down. Nkey is a sophisticated planner and conspirator, so his psychological quality is hard to say. What he knows better is that at this moment, his own role is not big. The intelligent zombies may have two options. First, kill himself directly. Second, use himself as the current leader of Changbai Mountain to create greater chaos. If the intelligent zombies take action directly, then Nkizheng has nothing to say but die. But if it is the second point, the intelligent zombies want to use their identity to cause greater chaos in the Changbai Mountain survivor base. Come then, only then can I have a way to survive. Doesn't he want to die? Of course not. Nkizheng knows one thing very well. When a person dies, things in this world have nothing to do with you. Therefore, you must not die easily. He must not die, even if it brings huge trouble to others. Nkey is a leader, but also a selfish person. Therefore, Nkizheng opened his mouth as soon as he calmed down, asking from a loser's point of view how the intelligent zombies could unknowingly deliver the Type 3 virus infection to his feet, and how to let their missiles hit themselves. Nkey was trying to use this to open up the situation a little bit. But Huang Liang did not respond to him, and responded to his other voice. The sound came from outside, because of the inner circle. The voice sounded slightly older, and an old man walking on a cane walked in from outside. The moment he saw this person, Huang Liang pushed half a step to the side, while Nkizheng's pupils shrank slightly. Because Nkey knew this person. That was the chairman of Zhehuan Group, Jin Yushin. In fact, the relationship between Nkizheng and Zhehuan Group has never been good. Before the end of the world, Zhehuan Group was one of the largest companies in the entire northeast region. It had a strong military background before the end of the world. After the end of the world, they also relied on their own heritage and military background. With support, it quickly emerged as an organized and large-scale survivor force. However, this faction has always had a good relationship with Yang Wenshan. Yang Chengxi often even went to the Zhejiang group before. Although the Zhejiang group did nothing on the day Nkizheng launched his attack, the relationship between Nkizheng and the Zhejiang group was definitely not close. However, this Jin Yushan is currently the top person in charge within the Zhejiang group. He was a leading figure in the company before the end of the world. He established almost all the old relationships of the Zhejiang group by himself, and he is also very influential in society. Influence, even on the Changbei mountain after the apocalypse, his hand reaches very far. Even the scientific research center is related to him. The Mr. Jin that Yang Chengxi went to the Zhejiang group to find before was this Jin Yushan, but at this moment, what does it mean for this person to appear here? And Nkizheng's expression changed. Jin Yushan's appearance here completely surprised him. Jin Yushan was leaning on a walking stick, his face covered with ravines left by the years. He swayed slightly and sat down opposite Nkizheng, glanced at him, smiled and said, "You seem to be surprised." Enki asked, "Are you from the inner circle, Jin?" Yushan smiled and nodded. Enki took a deep breath, stared at the person in front of him, and said, "In other words, I am what you call an intelligent zombie." Jin Yushan smiled calmly, like an elegant entrepreneur attending a charity party. Inner circle, you have been secretly looking for the inner circle members, but have you ever thought about it? The inner circle, in addition to representing our internal core leadership, also means we are also your inner circle. Nkizheng's lips trembled slightly. Jin Yushan smiled and said, the inner circle, I'm the inner circle. Of course Huang Liang can't send type 3 virus infected bodies here, but someone can. You humans can't hit yourself with missiles, but we can. These are even things I can't do, but what I can do is to get the source of infection, and when the Zhejiang group turns over supplies to supplement survivors according to your order. In this case, as long as the operation is done properly, it shouldn't be difficult for a large-scale infection to break out in Changbei Mountain. And I'm the chairman of the Zhejiang group. I have a network of contacts all over the Changbei Mountains. If I want to do something, who can find me? Who would think of checking me? Think about it. Guess. How many of our inner circles are there in your inner circle? Ki was changing his face and said, "This is impossible." "How is this possible? Have you preserved your original memory? If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 291 Chuking. Chapter 294 Chuking. Jin Yushan said, "Memory is very important, but also very unimportant. Human beings are really a very magical thing. In your world, people mean relationships, and a face is enough. As long as you have a little time, we can adapt to our own identities through observation and learning. It may be more difficult for other individuals, but for me, mastering the identity of Jin Yushan may be the easiest thing." Jin Yushan is old, doesn't like to talk much, and has no real close friends. As long as I hide it well and learn a little bit, I can become Jin Yushan. There is a kind of time travel novel in human novels. We are like time travelers. Your world is strange to us, but as long as we are cautious and not fools, no one can really discover anything. Especially in the early days, no one knows what intelligent zombies are. What is it? Who would think that the seemingly alive people around them actually want to eat them? Jin Yushan smiled slightly. He is an intelligent zombie with the most natural smile. It is difficult to tell the difference between him and a real normal person from his appearance. Leaders, soldiers, doctors, scientists. Where is your core circle? Our core circle is there. So if you look for the core circle among intelligent zombies, how can you possibly find it? Nkizheng's face was extremely ugly. He stared at the person in front of him and wanted to say something to refute. He could really say it, but he was also worried that if he said harsh words, he would be directly criticized by the other party. Get rid of it. So he just took a deep breath and said nothing. Jin Yushin glanced at him, stood up, and walked out. At the last moment, when he walked out of the door, he turned back and said, "Mr. Ren, are you willing to hand over the nuclear weapons to us?" He was silent. Jin Yushin smiled and walked out. Huang Liang also followed closely behind him. In addition, other intelligent zombies came in and guarded on key point. When Huang Liang walked out, he patted the intelligent zombie on the shoulder and said, "Be patient, this person is very important, don't eat him." Then, he followed Jin Yushin in front and walked out. At this time, the intelligent zombies have completely taken over the building. Just now, the human military was still defending this building, but now their mission is to recapture this building from the outside. Although intelligent zombies quickly occupied this command center, as time went by, the situation in the military zone on the top of Changbai Mountain was gradually stabilizing. Just as Nkis Heng expected, the actions of intelligent zombies seemed to vast and thunderous. But this is the survivor base of Changbai Mountain. It is now the gathering point of the entire military in the 3 eastern provinces, and it is also the largest survivor base in the 3 eastern provinces. It cannot be easily defeated by the gathering of intelligent zombies. Jin Yushin and Huang Liang walked up side by side. He asked casually, "I heard that you raised a living woman." Huang Liang was stunned for a moment and realized that Jin Yushin was talking about choking. He thought about it and nodded. Jin Yushin joked, "How do you plan to eat it?" Huang Liang was silent for a moment and said, "Today, I'll let her go by herself." Jin Yushin paused slightly and turned to look at him, but did not say anything. Instead, he walked straight up and arrived at the previous combat command room. The place was already in a mess, and the ground was covered with blood, along with corpses. Intelligent zombies are taking over here. However, compared with human professionals, these intelligent zombies are far behind. And there are many things here that they can't operate at all. Jin Yushin didn't care either. As soon as he came up, he received a series of terrible reports. Several military units occupied by our inner circle have experienced large-scale riots, and internal riots have also begun. They cannot hold on for long. There are armored forces advancing from our east, west, south, and north directions, and we don't have much time. The situation seemed to be under control a moment ago, but at this moment, the situation seems to have completely tilted towards the human side again. This is inevitable. Jin Yushin also knew it. He said, "Have you located the location of the weapons depot in Changbai Mountain? Mark all the weapons on the mountain for me to guide our people. Also, where is our legion?" At this moment, an intelligent zombie on the other side said, "There is something approaching us to the west of Changbai Mountain." Jin Yushin frowned and said, "What is that?" "Anyang Mountain Xia Bai. I just looked through the previous records. He claims to provide military assistance to the Changbai Mountain survivor base." "Provide military assistance?" Jin Yushin stood in front of the display screen, looked at the red dot moving at high speed on the radar, and said, "It seems that the direction he is moving is not Changbai Mountain." The intelligent zombie nodded and said, "His target is our legion." Jin Yushin's face turned ugly. What can his junk ship do? At the same time, underneath Changbai Mountain, the gathering area of survivors was in chaos. Zombie infection broke out on a large scale, and the number of infected people showed explosive growth in just 10 minutes. The most important thing is that, because of the dense population in the survivor gathering area of Changbai Mountain, these infected people are closely related to each other. The ordinary survivors mixed together, causing greater chaos. The military's power had already intervened, but it was difficult to suppress the situation in a short period of time. And Chuking was mixed in such chaos at this moment. She felt as if she had returned to the time when the ice city was breached. She was panicked and at a loss. She didn't know where was safe, and she didn't know when a zombie would jump out and bite her to death. At first, she just wanted to throw herself into the arms of the military and once again receive the safest protection. Until she heard something. The Mutual Aid Association is the leader in all this. It was the Mutual Aid Society that spread the virus. The Mutual Rescue Association launched an attack on the Changbai Mountain Military Command Center. Mutual Rescue Society. Many people and survivors are talking about the Mutual Rescue Association, but at this moment, the information related to the Mutual Rescue Association is not positive. Chuking realized something. She stood still among the chaotic crowd, stood at the foot of the mountain, and looked towards the top of Changbai Mountain. She made a mistake. She knew what she had to do at this moment. Chapter 292. Chapter 295 on Battleship. The Legion in Jinyu Mountain Pass is a huge corpse tide that Nkisheng guessed, that is, the huge corpse tide that is necessary to completely defeat the Changbai Mountain survivor base. The intelligent zombies have obviously been prepared for today's attack for a long time. The previous large-scale zombie attacks seemed to have been easily defeated by Nkisheng. This was of course part of Nkisheng's cooperation plan with the intelligent zombies, but in fact, the intelligent zombies had already gradually accumulated, coupled with external gathering. The scale is now unprecedented. And further away, there are still a steady stream of zombies gathering. It is still quite far away from the Changbai Mountain survivor base. When Xia Bai rushed over, he looked far away from this direction, and saw the sky covered by thick clouds. Below, the zombies have gathered into an invisible ocean surging forward above the ground. In the direction of Changbai Mountain, there are not many military positions that actually react and attack here. First of all, this group of zombies is the forward, and there is still a certain distance from Changbai Mountain. After all, a zombie wave of this scale it is impossible to be too close to Changbai Mountain, otherwise, Changbai Mountain would have been defeated long ago. And secondly, the chaos within Changbai Mountain has not yet stabilized, especially the large-scale virus infection that broke out in the surviving gathering area of Changbai Mountain. Changbai Mountain survived. The number of zombies is huge, but the space is limited, and the survivors inside are too dense. Therefore, once a large-scale infection occurs, if it is not controlled at the first time, it may even spread to the entire Changbai Mountain survivor base. Waiting for the intelligent zombies to dominate, the Legion troops came to the foot of Changbai Mountain, and the Changbai Mountain survivor base itself became a den of corpses. Xia Bai's battleship was traveling through the sky point when the accident occurred in Changbai Mountain. Xia Bai obtained the news through his own channels and set off from Anyang Mountain as soon as possible. With the performance and speed of the battleship, it won't take long to get from the Anyang Mountain survivor base to Changbai Mountain. From Xia Bai's current position, he could see the fire dancing on Changbai Mountain. However, Xia Bai did not pounce directly there. Instead, he changed his direction in mid-air and pounced directly on the zombie army below. The situation in Changbai Mountain is complicated and chaotic. Even Xia Bai can't guarantee that he can reorganize the situation by diving into the chaos in Changbai Mountain. Rather than doing this, he might as well come and cause trouble to the zombie army here. Of course, what Enki was thinking of, Xia Bai could also think of. After all, the Changbai Mountain survivor base is under the jurisdiction of the military. Although as time goes by, the military power in Changbai Mountain gradually weakens, it is still not comparable to that of a small survivor base. This level of chaos can only be handled properly. It is impossible to defeat the Changbai Mountain survivor base. Only a real zombie wave can completely engulf this survivor base. Xia Bai's interception of the zombie tide is undoubtedly a great help to Changbai Mountain. The arrival of Xia Bai's battleship attracted the attention of many military personnel who were working in this direction. Now Xia Bai's battleship has a total length of 150 meters. It is no longer a small object. Traveling through the sky, Xia Bai can be seen from a long distance away. Li Jianbei immediately discovered this behemoth sailing through the sky. His troops were armored troops and could hardly play a role in cleaning up and suppressing the source of infection inside Changbai Mountain. He could not let his people driving a tank to crush both living people and zombies to death, right? What's more, the buildings in the survivor gathering area are so dense that they are completely unsuitable for his troops to fight. And he is relatively far away from the positions that fired missiles out of control into Changbai Mountain, so his mission is to intercept zombies. His armored troops are quite confident and powerful when dealing with such large-scale zombies. However, at this time, he saw the huge thing traveling in the sky. Li Jianbei had seen Xia Bai's battleship, but the battleship he had seen was Xia Bai's 4th level battleship, not the current one. He looked at that thing and felt a little strange. He didn't know which unit's secret it was. weapon. However, in Xia Bai's view, it is useless for that guy to fly in front of the zombie wave. In this case, shouldn't he keep a distance and open fire in full force? Moreover, although that thing looks huge, the current zombie tide has truly gathered like a sea. Judging from the data Xia Bai just obtained, the number of zombies gathered here now has exceeded 2 million. The front is nearly a kilometer long, and the number of zombies that are pouring in from behind is unprecedented. Even Xia Bai cannot guarantee that he can intercept a zombie wave of this size from the front with the size of his own army. Not to mention that thing, Xia Bai tried to establish contact with the other party immediately, but before the contact was established, the warship flying in the sky over there made an action that surprised Xia Bai. The warship actually gave up its air superiority and plunged down from the sky point. That's right, Xia Bai plunged down from the sky point. Of course, he also knew that with the current number and scale of zombies, it would not be easy for him to stop them with his own battleship's firepower alone. Therefore, he planned to use another method. He directly raised the shield of the battleship and plunged down from the sky. On the ground, he used his battleship as a cannonball and walked along the nearly kilometer-long line of zombies, crushing them forcefully. And at the same moment, Xia Bai threw out a large number of incendiary bombs, white phosphorus bombs, etc. In the current situation, there is nothing more lethal than this kind of thing. If you ignite a pile of flames in the dense tide of zombies, it will not take long to make a large area of zombies burn, and the damage will be greatly achieved. Effect point: Xia Bai's battleship was like an iron, running through the dense tide of zombies. He did not crush it backwards, because he knew that, although these zombies could be said to be energy points, they were not. He could kill them all with one force, but if he wanted to stop them, he would only massacre the vanguard of the zombie wave at the front. In the position behind, Xia Bai couldn't help but change his expression slightly when he saw this scene. But looking at the familiar shield on the huge battleship, Xia Bai couldn't help but think to himself, this thing can't be from any Yang mountain, right? Chapter 293 Xia Bai is nepotistic. Chapter 296 Xia Bai is nepotistic. Xia Bai was wallowing in the tide of corpses. That's right, he was wallowing in the tide of corpses right now. This is a no exaggeration way of describing it. He drove a level 5 battleship that was already quite huge, lowered it to an incredible height, and ran over the zombies. At the same time, the battleship was also throwing ammunition crazily to both sides. On both sides of the battleship, there were explosions and loud noises everywhere. Wherever the battleship moved, there were fires everywhere. Those burning flames reflected the entire body and armor of the battleship brightly and brightly. From a distance, Xia Bai's battleship now looks like a large sprinkler, but Xia Bai's sprinkler moves extremely fast, and even if it is thrown out of the battleship, it's a fatal blow. His battleship crushed the ground, and the formation of the zombie tide was smashed to pieces by him. However, the entire zombie tide's line was stretched too long. Xia Bai could still rely on this sprint to intercept it at first. There was a tide of corpses surging throughout the area and on the front line, but as time went by, the situation became less optimistic. Because the number of zombies in the zombie wave is becoming more and more, and with the impact of Xia Bai's battleship and the firing of the military position not far away, which is also throwing a lot of firepower towards this side, some positions of the zombie wave are interruptions began to occur, and certain positions that could not be estimated by firepower continued to move forward. Moreover, the Changbai mountain area is not a frontal direction. The terrain in the mountainous area is complex, and the direction and situation of the zombies' sprint have also changed. However, Xia Bai's battleship still attracted a large number of zombies' concentrated fire. Although Xia Bai's warship is not as attractive as the hundreds of thousands of living people on Changbai Mountain, for zombies, the loud noise close at hand can still exert considerable attraction to them. Wherever Xia Bai's warship passes, those zombies were like moths flying towards the flames and rushed towards Xia Bai's battleship. As a result, they were either torn to pieces by the constant blows from Xia Bai's battleship, or were crushed directly by the battleship. It pressed over and was burned to ashes by the battleship and the shield on the battleship on the spot. Xia Bai's battleship was like a giant black dragon, crisscrossing back and forth in the same black and surging tide of corpses. Wherever it passed, there were flames and explosions everywhere. He also does not launch attacks from far away, and only shoots and bombards the zombies that are close at hand. In conjunction with the crushing of his warships, a single charge can crush a living road in the vacuum of zombies. Of course, it was not Xia Bai who actually drove the battleship, but Chen Shai and Cheng. Xia Bai was sitting on the captain's seat, drinking coffee and squinting at everything on the screen. Li Jingyang, on the other hand, is using a drone to overlook from a higher position and transmit the entire picture of the entire battlefield. Xia Bai temporarily handed over the fire control system to Bailan and Hao Zuang, asking them to cooperate with Alpha to maintain this high intensity bombardment mode. The entire battleship was shaking, but those explosions and loud noises were almost inaudible inside the battleship through the double sound insulation of the shield and the outer wall of the battleship. Obviously the battleship is in the center of the battlefield, and the explosions are very close, but for the people in the battleship, if they don't see the scene so close at hand, they will even feel a sense of alienation, as if they are quite far away from the battlefield. As distant. There weren't many people on the bridge. Xia Bai did what he said. He pulled all his people to the bridge of his own ship and existed as a leader level member of the battleship's command level. Therefore, not only Li Jingyang, Hao Zuang, Chen Shai and Cheng and Bailan are here now, but also Yi Hanyu and Yang Xin. The tasks that Xia Bai assigned to these two people were relatively simple, but also quite complex. They were responsible for monitoring various functional instrument data of the warship, as well as early warning of the radar system, etc. Yang Xin has a calm temperament. Doing such a job is nothing, but it is Yi Hanyu. Xia Bai intends to let this guy exercise. Xia Bai knows what kind of person Yi Hanyu is. This guy may be carefree on weekdays, but at this time, even if she doesn't want to do it, she will try her best, just to practice her temper. Of course, these people's employment cannot be accomplished in one day. In the previous period, Xia Bai used the learning system in the battleship laboratory to conduct a short period of training for everyone, including himself, to learn various functions and operations in the battleship. Otherwise, this would how dare Xia Bai use a group of guys who have never sailed a battleship to fight. But Chen Yingying is not here. It's not that Xia Bai doesn't want this girl to board the battleship, but that Chen Yingying herself doesn't want to. Compared with the busy life of sitting on the battleship, Chen Yingying wants a stable life without any danger. Live in it. This is indeed Chen Yingying's own idea, and Chen Yingying's character is indeed not suitable for living in the apocalypse or fighting with someone. Xia Bai looked at the people on the bridge and remembered another title he had recently received: nepotism. This is true. Xia Bai is really nepotistic at the moment. Regardless of whether you are strong enough or not, as long as you are my person, you can enter the bridge, and everyone else must stand aside. Of course, this was due to Xia Bai's lack of trust in others. This is not an era of peace. This is an era of the end of the world. In the end of the world, everyone can be trusted and no one can be trusted. Any Yang Mountain is not monolithic. Everyone has their own thoughts. Among the current battleships, Xia Bai mainly accepts two types of people. People without factions and people from his own faction. Xia Bai may also want people from other factions, but for the time being, Xia Bai won't let them have any key positions. But in order to maintain balance, Xia Bai still attracted a few people from various factions on any Yang Mountain. For example, Xia Bai remembered that Kyo Deming forced a person into his place. It was said that he used Xia Bai's relationship. The survivor was a person who Xia Bai personally rescued in Shengjing City. What is Jingxiangyang called? At this moment, at the rear end of the battleship, Jingxiangyang suddenly sneezed inexplicably. He looked left and right, a little puzzled, but he quickly turned his eyes away from the battleship again. That area of fire and the surging tide of corpses. Those zombies are so ferocious, but no matter what they do, they will never be able to break through the seemingly not so distant distance. Come to the battleship and kill the living people like them. A battleship separated the calm inside and outside. Inside the battleship, Jingxiangyang could not even feel the heat of the explosions and flames outside. Chapter 294 Bombardment. Chapter 297 Bombardment. That cliff is the spaceship of any Yang Mountain. Li Jianbei ran out of his combat command center, stood at a higher position, looked at the distant scene with a telescope, gritted his teeth and said, "And it must be Xia Bai who is here." He turned around, looked at the deputy beside him, and said, "Are they still refusing to allow us to establish communication over there?" His deputy nodded and said with some embarrassment, "Yes, that, spaceship? It only sent a message to Changbai Mountain at the beginning, but the specific content of the message is not clear, but it is certain. Yes, this thing is indeed flying from the direction of Anyang Mountain." Li Jianbei said, "Sure enough." His deputy hesitated for a moment, glanced at Li Jianbei in front, and couldn't help but said, "As far as I know, although any ancient spacecraft also has this kind of shield technology, the registered data of that spacecraft shows the length is only more than 20 meters, but this one now, well, it is obviously more than 20 meters long, right? Commander, why is it possible that this is our military?" Heh. Li Jianbei laughed and said, "How can our military people be so aggressive in fighting like him, burying themselves in the tide of corpses?" Li Jianbei's deputy was stunned, smacked his lips, and turned to look in the distance. From this position, he could not see the main body of the battleship clearly. He could only see continuous fire and explosions, but those fires and explosions, it was not just caused by the warship. Most of the explosions came from the bombardment of human positions in the direction of Changbai Mountain Point. He couldn't help but said, "I have shield technology, I can roll in the shells, I can do it too." When he said this, he suddenly felt something was wrong in his tone. He turned his head awkwardly and saw Li Jianbei staring at him with a murderous look. The deputy swallowed slightly, opened his mouth, and seemed to want to say something, but in the end he swallowed it back, laughed twice, and stopped talking. Li Jianbei snorted. It could be seen that Commander Li was very dissatisfied with Xia Bai's appearance here. He was also a little annoyed that Xia Bai did not contact anyone, and attacked and fired alone. As for Xia Bai, he doesn't know that what he has done makes Mr. Li a little dissatisfied. Of course, even if Xia Bai finds out, he won't do anything. Are you kidding? You owe me 200 pills. I have come to provide military assistance with missiles, and I'm not dissatisfied. Why are you dissatisfied? Xia Bai's battleship was passing through the tide of corpses through the battleship. He could not only grasp the movements of the zombies, but also the intensity of the firepower pouring on the entire zombie tide from the position in the direction of Changbai Mountain Point. Changbai Mountain is stretching and huge, but the military positions rooted here do not completely follow the terrain of Changbai Mountain. On the contrary, the military positions are spread far and wide in order to be able to fight against such a large scale with a better attitude. The situation of the corpse tide impacting point in the initial sloppiness and panic, the firepower invested by the military began to become more and more powerful, and even groups of fighter planes began to fly in from far away. The military's fighter system was not on Changbai Mountain, and even some of them, the army was not stationed in Changbai Mountain, and they rushed over as soon as possible to prepare to clean up the zombies in the periphery. The bomber clusters in the sky are the real killer weapons. They are the ones who truly eliminate numbers with numbers. Although their number is incomparable to the number of zombies in the zombie tide, hundreds of fighters and bombers roared in, dropping. The bombs are enough to flatten an area of land in a short period of time. This means that the situation in Changbai Mountain is gradually stabilizing. At this time, Xia Bai began to prepare to change his tactics. Originally, he was blocking the advance of the front-end zombie tide, but now, he also planned to take off to fight. Firstly, it is to avoid being bombed. Of course, it is unrealistic to drop bombs to hit the warship. However, it is better to do less than to do more. Xia Bai does not want to hide from any shells, and secondly, there is no that interception is necessary. The military obviously has the ability to intercept the tide of corpses here. Xia Bai might as well take advantage of this opportunity to truly spread his hands and feet in such a dense tide of corpses and use his own way to carry out a massacre. Earn as many energy points as you need from them. At that moment, Xia Bai's battleship slowly rose from the tide of corpses. Amidst the heavy roar of the anti-gravity engine, it slowly rose from the flames and corpses burning everywhere. The battleship is also slowly turning. But at this moment, Yang Zhen on the other side suddenly reported an abnormality. She immediately transferred the picture to Xia Bai and enlarged it on the holographic screen in front of Xia Bai. Xia Bai then saw that in a corner of Changbai Mountain, behind the battleship, and in the direction of the position, a series of missiles slowly rose into the sky with long tail flames, drawing a bright trajectory in the sky. Draw an arc, and fly directly to the top of Changbai Mountain. At the same moment, on the Changbai Mountain, several nearby forts and fire control weapons instantly turned their guns and fired rapidly at the missiles in the sky to intercept them. Several missiles were exploded in the air and turned into a large ball of blazing fireworks, but despite this, the interception from Changbai Mountain still seemed very hasty. From top to bottom, it accurately hit an area behind Changbai Mountain and exploded instantly. Several missiles triggered a chain of explosions in that area. In an instant, the impact point of the explosion was instantly engulfed in flames, and the entire Changbai Mountain seemed to be shaking. In the explosion point, the flames instantly replaced the pale color that covered Changbai Mountain. At the same moment, in the position below, in the 37th Division camp, Xia Bai was also watching the scene happening in front of him. His pupils reflected the blazing fire, but his expression changed instantly. They are attacking the arsenal. They are going to blow up Changbai Mountain. His deputy's expression also changed. Once the intelligent zombies successfully detonate the numerous armaments on Changbai Mountain, the chain explosions will be enough to cause unimaginable damage to the Changbai Mountain. The survivor base built on Changbai Mountain and even the military positions at the foot of the mountain will be destroyed. An unimaginable huge impact was felt in an instant. At the same moment, Xia Bai heard a heavy buzzing sound. He turned his head and saw a huge warship flying at high speed, passing over his head like an arrow from a string, flying towards Changbai Mountain. Chapter 295 Blow him up. Chapter 298 Blow him up. The sky above Changbai Mountain is as bright as fireworks blooming. Explosions lit up the sky. Xia Bai's battleship passed through this sea of fireworks, flying through the mid-air from the sea of corpses not far away, at an incredible speed. In Jingxiang's view, the situation at this moment can simply be described as thrilling. At that moment, he even saw with his own eyes a long missile that looked like an iron rod flying past the side of the battleship. It seemed that it was only a centimeter away from colliding with the battleship and immediately hit the other side of the sky. A missile flying from one side collided together, and the fire spreading in midair spread against the edge of the battleship's shield, which looked extremely thrilling. This is the last round of attacks by intelligent zombies on Changbai Mountain. Looking down from this direction, you can see that the positions and firepower points of these missile launchers on Changbai Mountain have long been submerged in a sea of fire. Although no one on the battleship is very clear about why the military is fighting its own people at this moment, with the stability of the battlefield situation, although the influence of the inner circle is far beyond Nkisheng's imagination. But at this moment, it is difficult to control the situation. After all, the core circle is just some individuals. When hiding, they may not be noticed by others, but once they are exposed, they will no longer be able to play a big role, let alone maybe the human soldiers reacted to the command's actions. Xia Bai was not clear about all this. His battleship was traveling through the air and was hit in the head by a missile flying from an unknown place. This shot was directly blocked by Xia Bai's battleship's shield. Did not cause any damage to the battleship, but Xia Bai could not find out which grandson took this opportunity to shoot him. Of course, this shot was not unfounded or misplaced. The target of Xia Bai's battleship is too big. Anyone who comes with such a fierce attack will feel a little confused, especially Xia Bai, who is now in a state where the enemy and us are unknown. Although he sent a message to the direction of Changbai Mountain early, the command center has collapsed. Oh, and Nkisheng obviously didn't take Xia Bai seriously, nor did he say that Xia Bai was coming. It was reasonable for someone to open fire on Xia Bai. And there are also many people who feel that they have recognized what this thing is flying in the sky. Isn't this shield and this spaceship the legendary spaceship in Anyang Mountain? Many people have only heard of Anyang Xia Bai and his spaceship, so now they can make a judgment faster than Xia Bai. Of course, there are many people who can't recognize Xia Bai's battleship. At this moment, there are Edis in Changbai Mountain. When they see acquaintances on the ground, they think that the other party may be some kind of intelligent zombie. Now that such a huge creature is flying over with a flash of light, of course it must be fire with full force. When Xia Bai was in the zombie wave before, he didn't establish contact with any of the troops here. There were several main reasons. First of all, he didn't need to contact him. His original plan was not to go to Changbai Mountain. Others thought that Xia Bai he wanted to get a share of the Changbai Mountain pie, but Xia Bai himself didn't want to wade into the muddy waters of Changbai Mountain at all. He was fighting the zombie tide outside, and there was no need to contact him. Secondly, he couldn't contact the Changbai Mountain Command Center outside Changbai Mountain. There were so many positions, Xia Bai contacted them one by one, not to mention whether they could be contacted, but even if they were contacted, in which life could he make it clear? The most critical point is that there is electromagnetic interference in this area. Although this electromagnetic interference has little impact on warships, it still has a certain impact on the military in the direction of Changbai Mountain. Of course, this is still not to the point of blocking communication, but it also makes it more troublesome for both parties to communicate with each other. But now it's not Xia Bai who's busy now. Xia Bai, who was sitting high on the captain's seat, rubbed his chin with his hand and glanced at Yang Xin and Yi Hanai on the other side, who were busy communicating with the military positions at all levels below through the battleship's channel. I smiled silently, once again feeling the benefits of the bourgeois represses at this moment. The battleship was descending on Changbai Mountain, casting a large shadow. Alpha was also using the battleship's fire control system to intercept the missiles flying from the position below, but Xia Bai's eyes fell on the core of the Changbai Mountain survivor bases where the Changbai Mountain Military Command Center is located. The intelligent zombies are conducting a targeted attack on the weapons depot in Changbai Mountain. Changbai Mountain is now the resource gathering point for the entire 3 northeastern provinces. Not only are the conventional resources needed by survivors, but also a large number of weapons and ammunition from the military. In addition to several weapons depots on the surface, they are located in the top mountainous area of Changbai Mountain. Especially in some uninhabited areas, there are still a large number of newly opened weapon hoarding points, but the location of these locations is obviously not clear to everyone. The current targets of intelligent zombies are obviously these locations. Detonating these positions will not only greatly weaken the military's power, but a large-scale strong explosion on the mountain may even cause the entire Changbai Mountain to collapse, and the entire mountain structure may be extremely seriously affected. The easiest way for intelligent zombies to find the location of these places is to directly mobilize resources from the command center. Therefore, the Xia Bai battleship's first choice target is here. At the same moment, at the Changbai Mountain Command Center, Jin Yushin was standing in front of the window on the 2nd floor, staring at the huge battleship in the sky. This command center is being surrounded by the military, but because of its unique location, it is difficult for the armored troops deployed by the military to attack it, fearing damage to the personnel and important facilities inside. Jin Yushin stood in the huge shadow cast by the battleship in the sky, turned to look at Huang Liang behind him, and said, "Tell everyone to evacuate this building immediately, and prepare to be bombarded." Huang Liang was stunned for a moment and said, "I know that is Xia Bai of Anyang Mountain, but this is the heart of Changbai Mountain after all. Even he wouldn't dare to do anything, right, Jin?" Yushin said, "You all know that he is Xia Bai of Anyang Mountain, so why does he care about the heart of Changbai Mountain?" At the same moment, Xia Bai looked at the scarred command center below, and the extreme mutants and intelligent zombies walking through the streets and ruins. He felt that he was in the right place, and stood up from his captain's seat, pointing to the Changbai Mountain Command Center building, and the extreme mutants below. He said, "Blow the hell out of them." Chapter 296 Fire. Chapter 299 Fire. The corner of Baelan's mouth in front twitched slightly, and she glanced directly below herself. Below, military armored units are parked on the dilapidated streets. They have already completed the siege of the command center, but the intelligent zombies have hostages in their hands, and this place is also very sensitive. Opening fire rashly may cause irreparable damage losses, so the situation has been in a stalemate and progress is very slow. At this moment, Xia Bai's battleship came through the sky. A soldier even jumped onto the tank. Since there was no way to contact Xia Bai's warship on the spot, he could only wave a pair of small flags and shout vigorously at Xia Bai's warship point. Of course, to be honest, although the members on Xia Bai's battleship have been briefly trained through the internal system of the battleship, they are actually a rabble. How can anyone know the semaphore? But Baelan looked at the nervous expression of the soldier in the picture, and she could probably guess what the soldier wanted to express without having to understand. She couldn't help but turn her head and look at Xia Bai behind her. Xia Bai's expression was very calm and arrogant. He pointed at the command center and extreme mutants below and said, "Fire, this guy really wants to blow this place up right now." Baelan just sighed and watched helplessly as Xia Bai shot out the missile. The missile pulled out a shocking trajectory in midair, instantly hit a Type 3 virus infected body on one side of the command center building over there, and exploded instantly. The flames rose instantly, and the explosion tore off the walls of the command center building piece by piece. However, what was louder than the loud noise was the howling of the monster. Such a missile is enough to instantly kill any extreme mutant creature, but for a Type 3 virus infected body, this level of blow is still not enough. The street was engulfed in flames, but in the smoke and dust, the body of the 7 to 8 meter tall monster was still quite obvious. Xia Bai's cannon tore apart the upper half of its body in the middle. It was like a person being torn apart. The flesh and blood inside were exposed and torn into pieces in the explosion. However, despite this for this monster, it is not a fatal injury at all. Sections of bloodshot tissue are being pulled out from the split body and flesh, which are like tape, splitting the Type 3 virus infected body. The flesh and blood body is glued together and is recovering at an incredible speed. Xia Bai opened fire, and the intelligent zombies also opened fire. They launched a counterattack immediately. On the street, several firepower points opened fire on Xia Bai. Of course, the intelligent zombies also knew that this was meaningless. Xia Bai's battleship is in midair. Although it is like a target, it is still not something that the individual weapons in the hands of these intelligent zombies can fight against, especially in such a short period of time when the shield is present. They use the existing weapons to attack, and they couldn't even penetrate Xia Bai's shield, let alone cause any damage to the main body of Xia Bai's battleship. But what really went crazy because of Xia Bai's attack was the extreme mutant over there. The Type 3 virus infected body was hit hard and went crazy. Before its body had fully recovered, it was trembling with flesh. The huge body like a mountain rushed towards the location of the battleship. But at this moment, the second missile launched by the battleship had already passed over the monster's head, and this time it hit the upper floor of the command center building behind it. With a loud noise, half of the building collapsed. Under the battleship, the commander of the military armored force, who had been besieging the intelligent zombies for a long time, was dumbfounded for a while. Through their own internal channels, he had already confirmed that this battleship came from Xia Bai. From Anyang Mountain was on their side and came to help. But right now, what a fuss is going on. Let them cease fire. Even if you shout, tell them to cease fire quickly. This was the commander's furious order, but Xia Bai in the sky showed no intention of ceasefire, and the battleship's main gun opened fire at this moment. Xia Bai's electromagnetic gun was aimed at the Type 3 virus infected body that was swaying on the ground. The shells carrying terrifying kinetic energy were instantly detached. At such a close distance, the target was still a mutant that didn't know how to dodge. There is no reason why this shot cannot hit a living creature. The heavy projectile was launched instantly, carrying unimaginable kinetic energy and instantly penetrated the monster's body. Then it landed on the ground behind the monster's flesh and blood body, accompanied by a loud noise. The whole street seemed to shake slightly. And at such a distance, few people even saw clearly what Xia Bai was hitting, and the monster seemed to have been hit hard. At the same moment, the automatic cannons at various positions on the battleship also opened fire one by one under the control of Alpha. The dense ammunition poured into the midair and even turned into an overwhelming rain of bullets. The striking positions were all those intelligent zombies that just launched an attack on the battleship point. Under such bombardment, the body structure of the Type 3 virus infected body disintegrated and was about to be scattered, but it was still alive. Xia Bai then opened fire again in the sky, bombarding the monster under his feet with electromagnetic cannon and sweeping the battlefield with the battleship's automatic artillery battery. It seems that he doesn't care whether the command center in Xia Bai Mountain is dead or alive, nor does he care about how many hostages there are, whether these hostages are dead or alive. And because of this tactic, those intelligent zombies that use the command center as their base and hostages as bargaining chips to confront humans had no choice but to passively be beaten and flee in a hurry. Without their positioning, the missiles from several military positions under their control under the Xia Bai Mountain survivor base also lost their targets and accuracy and became chaotic. Bailan watched, but gradually guessed Xia Bai's thoughts. Xia Bai looked like he was going to blow up the entire command center without any suspense, but in fact, except for the first few shots, he did not deliberately fire at the command center building. He just used an extremely tough attitude and firepower, forcing the intelligent zombies to make other responses may put the hostages in a very dangerous situation. But in Xia Bai's opinion, if the mountain structure of Xia Bai Mountain is really damaged and the entire mountain begins to collapse, these hostages will also can't live. Instead of pestering them, it would be better for Lei Lei to take action and directly beat these intelligent zombies into a panic. Chapter 297. This trip can't be in vain. Chapter 300. You can't go all this way in vain. Xia Bai's battleship was placed here like a natural barrier. The zombies and Type 3 virus infected bodies on the ground were powerless against him, but he was able to pour out firepower unscrupulously. The whole situation was broken by Xia Bai almost in an instant. The command center was still affected after all. Amid the loud noise, half of it collapsed, and the whole thing looked shaky. At this time, the troops below officially made contact with Xia Bai. There was a middle-aged man's voice over there, which seemed very irritable. I know you are any Yangshan Xia Bai. Now please change the direction immediately and withdraw the battleship from the battlefield. On the ground, following Xia Bai's rash move, the military troops also took action at this moment, cooperating with Xia Bai's warships to sweep the battlefield. And a group of soldiers rushed into the command center despite the danger, seemingly wanting to save people. But at this moment, another explosion suddenly occurred on the ground floor of the command center. This time the explosion was unprecedented in scale. In addition, the building itself was damaged. With the loud noise, the entire building collapsed, and the smoke and dust it instantly swallowed up a large area around it, including the advancing military troops, which were also instantly obscured by the boiling smoke. Even looking down from Xia Bai's battleship, all he saw was a vast expanse of smoke and dust. This is obviously a gift from intelligent zombies. They cannot control this place, and naturally they cannot let it exist. Even if Xia Bai doesn't take action now, when the military breaks in using mitigation means, he will face this explosion. Of course, the people in the military must also know this. What they want to do is to find a way. If you can survive from death, just bring out all the people inside. But in fact, this is impossible. In the smoke and dust, there was a terrifying howl tearing through the explosion and thick smoke. That was another Type 3 virus infected body. From the screen displayed on Xia Bai's battleship, one could see a huge thing moving slowly in the flames and smoke below. The monster's location was on the other side of the command center building. Xia Bai didn't really want to blow up the command center with one shot, so this was still a huge trouble. With the existence of these two things, even without Xia Bai, it would be extremely difficult for the military to rescue the people in the command center when the intelligent zombies were already preparing to explode. Xia Bai looked at the ground under his feet and asked Chen Shai and Cheng to fine-tune the position of the battleship and prepare to fire on the Type 3 virus infected body. At the same time, he responded directly, "What? The wind is too strong. Bah, there is electromagnetic interference. I'm not quite sure what you're talking about, but I heard that something happened in Xia Bai Mountain today. Commander Li Jianbei still owes me 200 missiles, so I came over to help and to see if I could put the missiles on my own. It was taken away." The Commander below had long been submerged in the smoke and impact of the collapsed building. The commander seemed to be hiding in an armored vehicle. Although there was a lot of noise in the call message, the voice was still relatively stable. Anyang Mountain is a base for civilian survivors. Help, what are you busy with, Xia? Bai's battleship was slowly passing by in the sky point at this moment. Another large-scale explosion occurred on one side of Xia Bai Mountain. The entire mountain was shaking. It was obviously another arms depot that had been detonated. Looking from the position of the battleship, one can see the huge flames rising in that direction. The explosion this time was obviously not caused by a missile strike. The intelligent zombies may have a plan B. Xia Bai's eyes darkened slightly. At this moment, Yang Xin on the other side directly enlarged their position on the central screen of the battleship bridge and said, "This should be an intelligent zombie." Xia Bai took a look and saw that at that location, a powerful motorcade was rushing out of the smoke and dust caused by the collapse of the building. They were all military vehicles. Although the vehicles in the convoy were probably randomly found and pieced together, the momentum was still very strong. They rushed out from a position far away from the Type 3 virus-infected body in Xia Bai's battleship, apparently intending to use the cover of the collapsed building to directly leave the attack range of Xia Bai's battleship. Of course, even if Xia Bai didn't intercept them, they would have a head-on encounter with an armored unit of the military blocking this position directly in front of them. Now, with Xia Bai's indiscriminate firing, this area has completely entered a state of war, and the whole situation has become chaotic. Therefore, as soon as the military interception force in this direction saw the unfamiliar convoy roaring towards them, they opened fire instantly. However, this fleet of intelligent zombies did not slow down at all. In an off-road car in the center of the entire convoy, a person was lifted half out of the car window. That was Nkisheng. Nkisheng's appearance suffocated the military's firepower. No matter what time, important figures can still play a very effective role. Nkisheng was also very afraid of death. His consciousness was very clear, and he was tied like a rice dumpling. He shouted, "Don't shoot! Don't shoot! The zombies are still arranged. Thoroughly investigate the entire area. Thoroughly investigate the entire area." And Nkisheng obviously knew that he still had a role to play. Although he was greedy for life and afraid of death, he was still brave and dared to say something that was seeking death. He shouted for a while, then turned to look at the battleship in space over there, but his face turned blue and white, which was very ugly. Although he has been detained, he also knows who and what caused the situation to progress so fast. Of course he was ruthless towards Xia Bai and gritted his teeth. The bandits in Anyang Mountain, the convoy of intelligent zombies did not slow down at all during the whole journey. The car at the front even went faster and faster, far away from the convoy behind it, and hit the interception line in front like a cannonball, and then exploded. Amidst the loud noise, a gap was torn open in this interception line, and flames were burning everywhere. The convoy behind was speeding towards them, and they didn't care, even if the car bodies were on fire. They rushed out of this breach in minutes. Death is meaningless to these zombies at the same moment. Xia Bai's eyes also fell here. Alpha asked, "Dear Captain, the electromagnetic gun is ready. Do you want to attack the mutant creatures below?" Xia Bai thought for a moment, then shook his head and said, "No, let's not care about this mutant. Let's chase those zombies. They must be heading for the arsenal in Xia Bai Mountain. Let's find a way to move some back. Humanitarian military assistance is military assistance, but it cannot be a waste of time. As for this, let the military handle it, otherwise they will talk nonsense to us. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 298 Nkisheng's Awakening. Chapter 301 Nkisheng's Awakening. After Xia Bai's words came to light, everyone fell silent. At this moment, all everyone is thinking is, are you really here to take advantage of me? But here, no one had any objections to Xia Bai's action. Chen Qianqing even got a little excited, let out an exaggerated pig cry, moved the battleship, accelerated in the air, and went straight after the convoy of intelligent zombies, but this time, the arrogant Xia Bai and his battleship did not open fire immediately. Instead, they pressed over the head of the convoy, as if they were escorting them, casting a huge shadow, and maintaining almost the same speed as the convoy. Flying slowly in the sky point in the convoy below, Huang Liang glanced at the battleships in the sky and couldn't help but take a breath. He turned to look at Xia, who was tied up by his side, and said, "It seems that your popularity is still there. Yes, with you here, even that guy doesn't dare to open fire." Xia's mouth twitched slightly. He was sandwiched between two intelligent zombies, and was in a state of absolute surveillance. He couldn't see the situation outside at all, but when he listened to what Huang Liang said, but he is very clear about the relationship between himself and Xia Bai from any young mountain point. But at this moment, Xia couldn't help but wonder, could it be that the man from any young mountain also knew the importance of the matter, and knew that as the supreme ruler of the entire Changbai mountain survivor base, he couldn't die so easily. Here, however, although Xia Bai had no intention of opening fire in the sky below, this convoy of intelligent zombies was still blocked by layers of obstacles. A long time had passed since they started taking action. The military has already taken action, and except for specific areas, almost all other locations have returned to the control of the military point. In other places in the apocalypse, communications and surveillance are undoubtedly unusable, but in Changbai Mountain, especially in this area, although the security level is still far from the original pre-apocalyptic military standards, various communication and monitoring equipment are also readily available, and the military can respond in a very short time point. Therefore, the intelligent zombies encountered many obstacles along the way, but this group of crazy creatures staged a real not afraid of death tactic. Point after being intercepted, they forcefully exchanged their human lives for it. The special characteristics of zombies allow them to still possess powerful combat capabilities even with their limbs broken. The pure power of intelligent zombies can even reach the level of the awakened ones. To the extent that one of them can flip up a car. It's not even a matter of exchanging one's life for the road or spreading the firepower. They don't fear death at all. Point compared with normal human warriors, they may not have as strong individual combat capabilities and qualities, but they are existences that can truly face death without blinking an eye. As dead people, they are even less afraid. Death. And because of the special characteristics of zombies, even the feeling of pain does not exist for them, and it will not have any impact at all. Xia Bai looked at this scene, but what he remembered was the scenes he had seen before. Why do these things live? In other words, are they really living creatures? They are even more like ghosts. But in the process, Xia Bai confirmed another thing. Not only was Enki in this convoy, but there was even a member of the core circle of intelligent zombies in this convoy of intelligent zombies. However, it is difficult for this group of intelligent zombies to succeed in the end. Their destination is so clear that the military has already set up many obstacles. The further they advance, the farther they travel on the Changbai mountain, and the obstacles they face become more and more difficult. The more there are, the greater their losses will be. When they actually arrive in front of the armory, they will only have 3 vehicles left. At this moment, what they are facing is the steel defense line that the military has already set up. At this moment, even Xia Bai could see that these intelligent zombies had no intention of leaving Changbai Mountain alive. Of course, this group of intelligent zombies has a key trump card. That is Xia. Enki was being pushed out. And his face was extremely ugly, because of course he could think of things that Xia Bai could think of, and a group of zombies who didn't want to live at all before they died. Would they let him do the same? Get rid of it. This is a conclusion that can be reached almost without any thinking. Therefore, his face looked quite ugly. However, Xia is still very useful. Xia is not a fool like Yang Wenshan. After he completely took over the Changbai Mountain survivor base, all the key areas here were replaced by Xia. People from the same faction, these people and Xia, are both prosperous and destructive. Therefore, these people never want Xia to die here. As soon as Enki came out, he played a very crucial role. The last line of defense began to spread slightly, making way for this group of intelligent zombies. At the front of this group of intelligent zombies was an old man on crutches. He looked unsteady when walking, but he was walking in front of all the intelligent zombies, Facing the approaching military step-by-step point, his appearance did not cause any sensation. Jin Yushin is the chairman of the Huan group, but he is old and rarely shows up, especially after turning into an intelligent zombie. He carefully hid himself in Changbai Mountain. Among the top people, his status is quite high, and almost everyone does not know him, but at the lower level, few people can recognize him. Therefore, the appearance of the chairman of the Huan group here did not cause much of a sensation. Of course, Xia Bai didn't recognize this person. He glanced down from above and slowly moved the battleship point. At this moment, the various sounds on Changbai Mountain gradually subsided, and the explosions and gunshots gradually became quieter. This meant that the entire Changbai Mountain war was coming to an end. The situation was just as Nkisheng had expected before. Wisdom: the zombies cannot expand their battle situation at all. It only takes time for the situation in Changbai Mountain to be stabilized again. Judging from the current situation, the plan of intelligent zombies has undoubtedly failed. Of course, if the chaos they create can bring the corpse tied to the foot of Changbai Mountain before the interior of Changbai Mountain is stabilized again, it will be a success. And at this moment, snowflakes suddenly fell in the sky over Changbai Mountain. Chapter 299 Enki cannot die. Chapter 302 Enki cannot die. The intelligent zombies are slowly moving forward. At this time, Nkisheng was surprisingly cooperative. He was trapped among the intelligent zombies, constantly issuing orders to his people to cooperate with the actions of the intelligent zombies. Nkisheng is a conspirator and a person who is greedy for life and afraid of death. Although he knew that intelligent zombies might still kill him in the end, if the two sides exchanged fire now, in this open environment, he would almost be shot dead on the spot. He could only hope for other opportunities. For example, Xia Bai's battleship in the sky, and himself. Nkisheng probably didn't expect that when Xia Bai's warship came over and claimed to provide military assistance, Nkisheng himself had ridiculed him, but now he regarded Xia Bai as one of his life-saving straws. However, does Xia Bai have any intention to save this person? His battleship is still following the footsteps of this group of intelligent zombies, at least in the eyes of many people. Xia Bai's action alone did not mean he cared about Nkisheng's life or death. The intelligent zombies seemed to think so too. Therefore, Xia Bai's battleship flew in the sky, and he didn't care at all, and he didn't try to threaten Xia Bai with Nkisheng. They just want access to the arsenal, and that's enough. And the existence of Nkisheng as a hostage is enough to help them do this. The military commander here is called Zhang Chao, a serious battalion level cadre, but he seems a little difficult to do at the moment. Such a long time has passed. Of course he knows why the intelligent zombies appear here. Of course, they want to blow up the whole place. From this point of view alone, this is something that must not be allowed to happen. But there is a hostage in the hands of the intelligent zombies, and it doesn't matter if this hostage is an ordinary person. Anyway, today is so chaotic, it doesn't matter if someone dies, even if it is a person with a higher level than Zhang Chao. But today's intelligent zombies are hostages Nkisheng. Now the top person in charge of the Changbai Mountain survivor base. And Zhang Chao himself is also a member of this faction. Due to certain connections, although he is only a battalion level cadre, he is able to have security rights in the military coordination area above the Changbai Mountain survivor base. This shows that he has great influence on security. Nkisheng's position in the faction is definitely not low. But if Enki is dead, Zhang Chao couldn't help but lick his lips. Feeling a little nervous, he is not someone who cannot understand the situation. Judging from the current situation, the threat of intelligent zombies that have plagued Changbai Mountain is gradually decreasing, and the situation in the survivor gathering area below also seems to be improving. The situation seems to be improving, but when Nkisheng was in power, something like this happened in Changbai Mountain, and everyone in their group would have to bear the responsibility. If Nkisheng died today, it could be said that their group would have almost no chance to turn around. Now is not before the end of the world. If something big happens, just find a scapegoat. Whoever has the fists will speak now. When Enki is knocked down, Yang Wenshan and his faction will definitely take control of the entire Changbai Mountain survivor base again. By then, they will all is a sinner. Therefore, Enki cannot die. Zhang Chao watched helplessly as these intelligent zombies pressed Nkisheng into the arsenal. His men pressed forward urgently, preparing to take action when this group of people took action to see if they could snatch Nkizeng alive. Come down point after all. They have a lot of people here, and they are regular troops with extremely strong military qualities. In the corner, there are also snipers that Zancheo arranged early. As long as the timing of the attack is good enough, it should be possible to snatch Nkizeng alive. It's not a difficult matter. As for the other things, Zancheo can't care about that much. Zancheo's hand holding the gun was sweating, and he was more nervous than if he was tied up by an intelligent zombie. But it is a pity that his plan had no chance to be implemented at all, because at the moment when the door of the arsenal opened and the intelligent zombies and Zancheo's combat troops walked in one step at a time, a sudden sound came from the sky. There was a loud bang. Zancheo raised his head in shock and saw that the entire ceiling collapsed. Xia Bai's battleship fell directly from the dome. Xia Bai turned off the shield, directly collapsed the ceiling from the top, and drove the battleship in with a rumble. Under Zancheo's almost completely dumbfounded gaze, an automatic cannon in the front of Xia Bai's battleship fired almost instantly. Just opened fire. Although Alpha is still weak in terms of intelligence and flattery in the current situation, in terms of precise firing, Alpha as an intelligence system appears to be extremely accurate. At this point, it is beyond the reach of any top human being. The moment Xia Bai's battleship fell from the sky, it opened fire. A triple gun of 25mm caliber bullets was enough to sweep across the entire battlefield. At the same moment, Zancheo also reacted. He shouted and led his men. They also rushed forward, trying to snatch Nkizeng, the current leader of the Changbei Mountain Survivor base. The intelligent zombies also counterattacked immediately. They could not do anything to the battleships, but they would be able to effectively kill humans. However, this is not the purpose of this group of intelligent zombies. Jinushin's eyes flashed with crazy light. He noticed that a stray bullet hit the hull of Xia Bai's battleship, but it was not blocked by the shield at the first time. Instead, it was a real hit. He realized that the battleship did not open the shield. This may be related to the special environment of the arsenal. The electromagnetic shield and reaction had the risk of directly detonating here, so the battleship did not open the shield. However, does this mean that, if they handle it properly, they can blow up the turtle-like battleship of any young mountain as well? Jinushin pushed Nkizeng towards Zancheo and others, while he dispersed with other intelligent zombies, intending to carry out their ultimate goal, which was to completely detonate the place. If there is an explosion here, these people here, whether Zancheo or Nkizeng, will die. Zancheo also realized this, and prepared to retreat the moment the camp returned to Nkizeng. Nkizeng himself was worried that he would be replaced at a loss, but he directly issued a series of orders, saying, reduce the losses as much as possible, don't let them succeed, and at this point, Nkizeng's eyes slightly deep. His voice also raised a rare octave, and said, that old man is Jinushin, the chairman of Zhuan Group, a member of the core circle of intelligent zombies. I want to see people dead and corpses. Chapter 300. Get it back for me. Chapter 303. Get it back for me. Zancheo's expression suddenly changed. In this case, I will escort you to leave first. Should I use you as an escort? Capture Jinushin for me. Don't let these lunatics blow up the arsenal. If you don't do it right, I'll be the first to hold you accountable. Zancheo didn't expect to save an ancestor by himself. And he retreats on his own, leaving behind a high-risk mess that has to be solved by Zancheo. The battalion commander couldn't help but have one head and two big heads. Fortunately, Xia Bai's battleships were also killing zombies. The battleships were condescending, and Alpha was there to carry out precise strikes. In this chaotic situation, the killing effect was far greater than that of the military's infantry. But Xia Bai showed a thoughtful expression. In fact, he had always paid attention to Nkizeng. Although the scene was chaotic, Xia Bai could clearly hear what Nkizeng said. Clearly information about the Zhuan Group, the chairman, Jinushin, intelligent zombies and the inner circle entered Xia Bai's ears one by one. From this, he looked at the scene below with a thoughtful expression. He was thinking, the battleship was not idle. Xia Bai came here with these intelligent zombies, not just to help on top of the battleship. 3 tractor beam towers were emitting beams of light, traveling through the air, but their targets were all kinds of munitions placed on both sides. The height of the battleship was also slowly and imperceptibly lowered, and the hatch at the back rumbled open. Hao Zhuang, who was originally on the bridge, ran to the back at some point, wearing a body armor and holding a gun in his hand. For the last time, he reiterated, "Brothers, remember, we must adhere to the principle of no fighting. We have only one goal, which is to move supplies to the battleship. We will move whatever is here. The more we move, the better the equipment we move. Our equipment will be better in the future. This is just like when we used to play games to grab equipment. Brothers, get moving." The Marines on Xia Bai's battleship came in handy for the first time, but it was on such an occasion. The scene was now in chaos. The intelligent zombies wanted to detonate the entire arsenal, but Zhang Chao had to bite the bullet and risk it. In order to stop this group of crazy intelligent zombies with the arsenal that could be exploded at any time and the risk of blowing up into the sky, he did not even enter the battlefield himself, but stood outside, ready to run away if the situation went wrong, let alone come take care of Xia Bai, who was taking advantage of the situation point at this moment. Zhang Chao even regretted a little. Why did he save him? Cause hang, if you don't do well, you will blame yourself. Point. If this place really explodes, I, the unlucky guy, will be the first to die. The scene was chaotic. Jing Xiangyang was also mixed in with the battleships and marines, carrying supplies frantically. But at this time, he noticed that the leader Hao Zhuang and 4 or 5 people had penetrated deep into the entire arsenal. Went inside. Point. Hao Zhuang and the others have another mission point. That was what Xia Bai had just temporarily assigned to him. Point. Ask Hao Zhuang to bring Jin Yushan to Xia Bai. Point. Although Hao Zhuang was not very clear about the cause and effect, to him, the boss's order was absolutely valuable and useful, so he took action immediately. Point. The battleship is condescending and can be said to be in control of the overall situation. With the intelligent and manual screening of Alpha and Yangzin, Jin Yushan's location was quickly confirmed. Point. In fact, Jin Yushan was also the target of Zhang Chao and others. He had been targeted by the military early and was trapped in a place unable to move. However, he did not expect that at this time. There was chaos and chaos. There was another group of people who came up from behind. This group of people who came up were naturally Hao Zhuang and others at this time. Huang Liang and another intelligent zombie were the only ones left around Jin Yushan. Point. Seeing this, Jin Yushan could not help but grit his teeth slightly and said directly, "Their target is me. I will attract their attention. You two, go and find a way to detonate this place." With that said, Jin Yushan took action on his own and ran out on his own initiative, attracting the attention of Zhang Chao and Xia Bai. However, Hao Zhuang and others came from behind and had an inherent advantage. Jin Yushan took the initiative. When he came out, he was controlled by Hao Zhuang and others almost immediately. Point. Their method of controlling Jin Yushan was also very simple. Although as an intelligent zombie, Jin Yushan also had the same powerful power as an awakened person. Strong ordinary people like Hao Zhuang were far from his opponents, but they worked together to pin him down. After getting off, Hao Zhuang directly took out a collar and put it on. Point. That is the black technology used in dog traps produced in the Xia Bai battleship. This thing is actually not that effective on zombies, but the strong current can still paralyze the brains of intelligent zombies, although it cannot even make them lose consciousness. But it was enough to make it temporarily lose its ability to resist. Point. Zhang Chao saw this scene from a distance, but frowned and said, "The group of people over there are not ours, right? What is going on?" A soldier under him responded, "The ones over there seem to be the Marines who got off that spaceship." Zhang Chao changed his color slightly and then said angrily, "Whoever he is, hurry up and get Jin Yushan back to me." However, just after he issued this order, he saw a ray of light suddenly shooting down from the battleship not far away, directly covering the controlled body of Jin Yushan and directly bringing him into the battleship. Point. The soldier was stunned for a moment, glanced at Zhang Chao, and said cautiously, "Battalion Commander, this Star Trek or Star Wars? They captured Jin Yushan. Let's capture their people." Just after Zhang Chao said these words, in front of him, on the battleship, the 3 tractor beam towers all turned their directions, and the light was instantly aimed at Hao Zhuang and others here, one by one, all of them. Take them back to the battleship. First point, the soldier who was about to carry out the order immediately froze again, opened his mouth, and showed an expression that he was hesitant to speak, but he turned his head and looked at his battalion commander Zhang, and found that the look on his face was also the same as that of Commander Zhang. He had the same dull look on his face. In fact, Zhang Cheo's head was buzzing at the moment, and what he was thinking at the moment was, what the hell is this? This is just an episode in the Malay. The military has completely taken control of the situation, but Huang Liang and another intelligent zombie are still running away in a hurry. They have no chance of triggering a chain explosion. Humans are like the tarsal maggots, followed them relentlessly, chasing and killing them. At this time, the intelligent zombie next to Huang Liang stopped and gritted his teeth and said, "I'll lure them away." End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.